Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, September 26th, 8:45 a.m. We are back once again on another episode of The Market Open. Folks, we've got a lot to discuss this morning. Breaking news was last night. Sam Altman officially now owning 7% of equity in Openai as the company becomes a for-profit entity. We found out yesterday two things. We found out the CTO was leaving. And then last night, we found out the company was transitioning from a nonprofit to for-profit. And then late last night, we found out how much Sam Altman owns from that now for-profit company. So we're going to go into that, talk about that. There's a lot of nuances to it, a lot to get to. It's kind of impacting the rest of the tech market that we're seeing right now. On top of that, from a macro perspective, China decided to turn on the money printer, $142 billion injected into Chinese banks. Alibaba right now is up 8%. Long China so far over the past couple of days is working out very nicely. Alibaba right here above $100 for the first time in about a year at 102.82 in the pre-markets. And not only is that helping Chinese equities, and we'll dive into the minutia on how that's helping Chinese equities, it is helping pretty much every single stock in the market. Rocket Lab had a monster day yesterday, up 14%. Now it's up 2.3%. Intel is up 3%. Palantir is up almost 1% at 37.37. NVIDIA, 126.57. NVIDIA was up 2% yesterday. NVIDIA is up 2.5% in the pre-markets. Micron, we'll talk about them. They had just an amazing earnings. If you're with me on the market close yesterday, you saw those results. They're now up 17%. They were up 13% yesterday. Tesla's up 2%. It's above 260. 270 is the 52-week high. Dell is up 3%. Apple is up 0.5%. Meta, will recap their results, their event from yesterday. They're at new all-time highs in the pre-market at 577. That's above where it was yesterday after they introduced their new glasses. The NASDAQ is up 1.5%. That's a big move on the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ right here, 493 in the pre-markets. This is basically the tech sector. 502 was the top in July, so it's getting closer to those levels. Robinhood's up 2%, 2286. Disney's up. S&P 574.9. We also had some other macro news around initial jobless claims and GDP growth that we'll talk about as well after the Openai stuff. And one of the biggest beneficiaries from China turning on the money printer and putting more money into the banks is Bitcoin. 64,560, holding above 64,000 very nicely. It is looking like China decided they are going to save their economy, or at least try to save their economy. And because they are doing that, it is helping all assets that require liquidity, Bitcoin being one of them. If you asked me a couple weeks ago, hey, Amit, are you bullish on Bitcoin for the rest of the year? I would have said yes. I would not have figured out what the short-term catalyst would have been to unlock the liquidity outside of the Fed cutting rates, which happened by 50 bips, but Bitcoin kind of didn't care when that happened. China is a different animal because they are taking very strong measures, sophisticated measures, and quite frankly, I would argue larger measures than just the 50 bips rate cut to make sure that their economy is saved. And that just opens up a lot more money across the world. When you open up that money, that obviously helps an asset like Bitcoin. And it also helps the Bitcoin proxies. So we got a lot to talk about, a lot to dive into. And we'll get started with the Openai stuff and then go deeper into some of the other macro things. We also have a couple Palantir updates from last night that we'll talk about. And so we'll keep going from there. We got a lot to discuss. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Quarantine Quartet, Craig Smith, GE, Broccoli Bob, Brandon, Bobby G, Atlantis. Good morning. Thank you for being here. Francisco, Kim, Andres, Missy, San, Don, Mark LeBlanc. What's up? I'm Beneficial. Thank you, everybody, for being here this morning. Okay, let's start off with Openai. So this story, guys, is where do you start? So last night or on the market open, or sorry, on the market close, we had this news, like literally right before I went public. Right before I went public, right before a mid IPO. No, right before, I guess kind of going public when you do the market close, right? You're publicly doing it. CTO left, okay? CTO left. All of you guys were like, oh my God, she's so hot. Whatever, dude. Whatever. She could be hot. She could be ugly. I don't care. She left. This is a big deal. CTO of Openai leaves, okay? Then right at the end of the market close, we get another update. Literally, when did I tweet this? 4:42. So we usually close the market close at 5 o'clock. Breaking from Reuters, OpenAI is planning on restructuring its core business into a for-profit corporation that will no longer be controlled by its nonprofit board. CEO Sam Altman will receive new equity for the first time in the entity. Sam Altman does not have equity inside of OpenAI. He's never had equity inside of OpenAI outside of yesterday's developments. And sometimes people forget about that because it's valued at 150 billion. And it's like, oh my God, it's this like big startup. It's not really a startup. It's a nonprofit. And the CEO and founder of it, Sam Altman, didn't own any equity in it. And so we analyzed this yesterday on the market close and we're like, all right, that's definitely big news. That's not small news. The CTO leaves and then it goes from a nonprofit to a for-profit. That's important to think about in terms of the implications of what it means for AI and for the broader trajectory of one of the largest foundation models, which is GPT, and how it's going to grow. And then last night, so I had to go pick up my mom from the airport. She went to Chicago for some business stuff. As I'm stepping out the door to get in a car and go pick up my mom from the airport, we get a breaking news report from Bloomberg. So literally I'm tweeting as I'm walking out the door and I send the tweet and then I can't look at my phone for the next couple hours because I'm going to pick her from the airport. Sam Altman is set to receive 7% of OpenAI after it was reported that they are transitioning into a for-profit entity. Now, we don't know if this is officially facts, but if Bloomberg is accurate about that, I would imagine if it's not 7%, even if it's 5%, it's 10%, whatever it is, he is going to receive $10.5 billion worth of stock. It's not liquid stock, but it is $10.5 billion on paper if the funding round is $150 billion. And that's widely reported that NVIDIA, Microsoft, and Apple are investing in that $150 billion funding round along with Thrive Capital. They're basically going to raise like $7 to $8 billion just off that funding round. That means Sam Altman became the 250th richest person overnight. Overnight. Dude, this is absolute insanity. This is a guy who had no equity in OpenAI. This is a guy who got $40 million from Elon Musk just to be able to start OpenAI as a hedge against Google. And it seems like he is choosing the money. And I have a couple of nuanced reasons for why that might not be the worst thing in the world, but it is just absolutely insane. And to remember why, like Sam Altman had no equity, let's just hear it from the man himself.
You make a lot of money, do you?
No. I paid enough for health insurance. I have no equity in OpenAI.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. You need a lawyer.
I need a what?
You need a lawyer or an agent?
I'm doing this because I love it.
Dude, I'm doing this because I love it. When it comes to 150 billion, potentially multi-trillion, no, he's doing this for money. He might have good intentions about AGI and all this stuff, and even that's a little skeptical right now, given the people that are leaving the company. But he was not just doing it because he loved it. He was doing it obviously because he saw a path to monetization. So that was kind of crazy when we got that Bloomberg update. But then the other update we got right after the Bloomberg update is this one. So this story gets deeper and deeper and deeper. The VP of research at OpenAI, Barrett Zoff, which is the guy on the right, and the chief research officer, Bob McGrew. By the way, for those that don't know Bob McGrew, he was a legend at Palantir. He spent, I think, from 2007 to 2016 at Palantir. He was like one of the core architects at Palantir, this guy right here on the left. And then he left to go to OpenAI. Both of them resigned. Both of them. They left the same day as the CTO. And so to me, I'm like, okay, so three very important people leaving on the same day makes absolutely no sense. Barrett, this is what he said. This was a very difficult decision as I have such an incredible job at OpenAI, blah, 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 right? So he's the same corporate nonsense. And then you have Bob saying the last 8 years of OpenAI has been a humbling and awe-inspiring journey. Again, same corporate stuff. And then you have Mira saying she's leaving to like go spend time with family, which I fundamentally I'm skeptical about that, given her equity as the CTO of OpenAI could have been worth like tens of billions. And so you just don't leave that on the table to focus on family, especially not on the same day as two senior VPs of research decide to leave. Three people leaving in one day of a startup that most investors who are investing on the secondary markets, I mean, even if you don't know a lot of people investing in OpenAI, Brad Gerstner is one of the most public people that I know who is an OpenAI bull. And if you just listen to his interviews, he thinks it's going to multi-trillions because he thinks they have the best foundation model. So just his opinion alone, and he's a decent figure in the investment community, and he's got NVIDIA and all these different picks right over the past couple of years. You would think, all right, so this guy has a hard research team. They understand a bit about where AI is going. if they think it's worth close to $1 trillion and they're doing their back checks and they feel there's something special here, well, why would 3 very important people inside of OpenAI decide to leave? Why would they leave? How do you just leave trillions of dollars quite literally on the table? You don't do that, dude. Very few people in life get an opportunity to have that type of equity. People will say, oh, it's not about the money. It's always about the money. It is always about the money. It's never not about the money. I think you can be a good person and be authentic and be ethical in terms of how you make your money, but make no mistake about it, there is always an underlying monetary motivation to what people do, unless the money wasn't worth what they saw Sam was going to do. And so if this is what I mean by it's always about the money. Sometimes when things get so bad, you have to look at the money and just be like, that money cannot destroy who I am. And so you leave. And so there's a world in which they offer them a ton of equity, but because it's one or it's either they had so much equity, but they saw things were so bad that they had to leave, or they didn't get enough equity. And if I was the CTO of OpenAI for the past 6 years and, Sam Altman gets $10.5 billion and I get like less than 0.05%, I would be like, screw this, dude. I've given my 6 years of my life to this company. This company wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me. I should be getting more equity. Either you're not getting enough money, or the money was so damn much and you realize, hey, there's no way I'm making this much money unless we're doing some fucked up shit. And they ended up doing some fucked up shit. So I think there is a variety of things going on here. I think there's a variety of nuanced perspectives going on here. And it's just going to be a very interesting story to see kind of how this plays out and ultimately what happens. Now, here's the other crazy thing that happened overnight. I woke up to a tweet that I posted right before I slept. And the tweet got 4.1 million views. And I woke up and I felt pretty good about myself. I was like, you know what? I'm not a doctor. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a lawyer. But I can write something and 4 million people can see it, right? That's not crazy. Like, my takes aren't that bad. I mean, this is a decent take. So the take was basically, so let me get this straight. OpenAI decides to become a for-profit company. Sam Altman gets 10.5 billion. How are Tim Cook and Satya Nadella okay with this? What did Sam do? There's no way 3 high-level people left on the same day. I said, look, when I was on the debate team, when my former debate teammates left, it's because they hated our coach. It wasn't because they were focusing on their schoolwork. It's like, no, dude, everyone has beef in a group when you leave. It's very simple when you think about how groups ultimately disband themselves. And I was like, wow, 4 million people resonated with this perspective. And so I woke up and I felt like, it's not too bad. You get 4 million people to actually care about what you have to say. And then as I'm taking a piss, and you guys know me, right? My phone's in my hand when I take a piss. If you're new to this channel, one hand has my device to unload the bladder. The other hand has my phone. That's just how it is. I don't like using and relieving bladders without being stimulated in some type of way. I get a text from my boy Adam Bergman while I'm taking a piss, feeling good about myself that, 4 million people care about myself. And he's like, Elon quote tweeted you. And I was like, oh, so it wasn't me. It was fucking Elon. It was fucking Elon who made this happen. So Elon Musk quote tweeted overnight. Honestly, dude, I woke up and I was like, damn, maybe that was just a good tweet. It's like, no. Elon fucking pushed the shit out of it. And that's why it went up there. So Elon also seemed to agree with what ended up coming into his feed. And it was pretty much the same thing that he said, which is you can't just convert a nonprofit into a for-profit. That is illegal. I would agree. Now, so let's talk about the Elon Musk angle to this. I think this makes a lot of sense. Elon Musk put $40 million into OpenAI in 2015. That 40 million theoretically should be worth at least, I would argue, 15 to 20 billion, something like that. The numbers could be a little off, but that 40 million was invested when it was nothing. Now it's a $150 billion company. There has to be some equity stake here. So I think there's 3 perspectives to think about in terms of devolving this, and then we'll get into a lot of macro stuff because we have a lot of macro news as well. Number 1, I think there's an Elon angle where he officially sues. He couldn't sue them last time because they were a nonprofit, and based on some legal speak, like you can't sue a nonprofit. I'm pretty sure you can, but there were some articles I read that was like the lawsuit is just not going to work, and Elon just caught the wrong end of the straw. Now that it's a for-profit, maybe he says, okay, now I can sue you guys. Like, companies get sued all the time, right? So maybe there's an argument that he can actually sue and have a case to win, and he owns a bit of OpenAI. It also would be very ironic if the 3 people that left OpenAI go to XAI. It would be very ironic, and then it would solidify to me that Sam Altman is evil. And I don't want to say he's evil, but 3 people leaving and going to Elon Musk or even Google or something, which are Google's perceived to be, the big bad boy in the room. OpenAI was a hedge against Google. That would solidify to me something's wrong with Sam Altman. So I think that's the Elon Musk angle. The second angle is I think Sam Altman realized, wait a second, I want AGI to become real. And if I want AGI to become real, these mother effers that are like constantly nagging me in the Slack channel about, hey, Sam, we need to be safe. Hey, Sam, we need to like take it slow. Hey, Sam, we need to make sure that, like, we have these restrictions, yada, yada. I think Sam's looking at those people and they're like, they need to get the hell out of here. It's like, I want to build AGI. Sam Altman put out an essay 3 days ago called Super Intelligence or something. It's on his website. It's on his blog. And he said in the last paragraph of that article, we will probably achieve something like super intelligence in 1,000 days. It's not AGI, but it's like kind of close to AGI. 1,000 days is a couple years away. And so I think Sam's thinking, hey, maybe these guys got to get the boot because I can't have the original co-founders of OpenAI breathing down my neck if I'm trying to change the world. Now that begs the question, wait a second, maybe they're breathing down your neck for a reason. Maybe these 3 people who are no longer here, this was one of the original photos a couple years ago, slowly by slowly, all of them left and you got one left. Maybe Sam realized all 3 of these guys need to get the hell out for him to actually build a company that is successful. Now, another caveat here that's very important, I kind of don't blame him for thinking like that because, and I'll give the other perspective where I do blame him for thinking like that, but the way I don't blame him is this is really expensive. AGI is going to cost hundreds of billions of dollars in compute. Sam Altman just went to the White House the other day to talk about building 5 gigawatt data centers. Right now, the highest gigawatt data center we have, or megawatt data center, is 500 megawatts. We're building an 800 megawatt one, which is acres and acres of GPUs. Jose came on the channel yesterday on the Market Close to talk about that. If we do 5 gigawatts, first of all, that's money printing for NVIDIA. But that's just like, imagine the amount of compute power, imagine the amount of the energy. And that's only to train the next version of GPT. Like I would imagine GPT-10, GPT-15, you would need so much power, so much money, so much investment that you would need to become a profitable company. And if these 3 people in the company don't like the for-profit nature because they started as a nonprofit with this like mission to save the world, they might have to get the hell out. Because at some point, Microsoft wants a return, Apple wants a return, NVIDIA wants a return. And by the way, it's not just those companies want a return. All of you guys that own stock in those companies, you don't want them putting money into OpenAI if they don't get a return, because then you're just not going to own their stock if it's like a non-profit investment that they do. So I think at some level, there's an argument where we have to give him a little bit of sympathy and say, hey, he wants to build a massive company. Or he wants to build AGI. The only way to do that in a vehicle that actually allows the deployment of that to become actualized is by having some type of profitable company, because the nonprofit incentive structure just doesn't work. And that's how he did it. The final perspective here is these 3 people realized Sam Altman is trying to build AGI in a way that is so unethical, in a way that is so profit-driven, in a way that is so diabolical towards the broader scheme of humanity, towards the broader arc of what human civilization will look like, that they decided it would be better to not be part of the mission. I don't even know if they get equity. I would imagine they get some equity, but they're probably leaving a lot of equity on the table if they're not part of the company anymore. And they decided, you know what? This guy is absolutely insane. Either Sam is right that these 3 people are stopping him from making progress and progress is important to make, or these 3 people are right and they're like, Sam is making too much progress too quickly, and that's not good in the context of AI. It's not just like a regular startup that needs to grow. It's a startup that needs to grow in a very particular way because the type of implications this have on humanity are insane. What this really reminds me of, and this is my final perspective on this, is November 2023. Do you guys remember November 2023? In November of 2023, Sam Altman was ousted from OpenAI. He was gone. The board kicked him off. And at that moment, we all thought, oh, maybe the board was jealous of him, or maybe people thought like he was moving too quick and he like wasn't as safe. But like all of us were most people were on Sam's side. I mean, the general public was like, they were skeptical of Sam, but they were like, hey, you don't kick a founder out of his own company. I think what's happening right now is November 2023, but this time Sam's kicking these guys out. I think this time it's Sam saying, I have all the control. I've got Tim Cook, Satya Nadella, and Jensen Huang with fat pockets ready to make sure I succeed. If you guys aren't with it, get the hell out, but you're not getting rid of me. And now with his voting shares and the new share class structure for this for-profit company, I don't think he's going to get founder shares, but I'm assuming he's going to make sure he has enough rights to like overturn any egregious decisions of like voting him out of the company, like what happened in November of 2023. So I think everything has changed. I think this is November 2023, but Sam has the power, not the board. And now everyone's realizing, all right, if he has all the power, maybe I should just leave. And that's why the CTO and VP of research and head VP of training research all left in the same day. It is absolutely insane. It is absolutely insane. So that's what we got on the OpenAI debacle. I think we'll find out a lot more about it over the next couple of months, definitely over the next couple of weeks. But it was a hell of a story, and now we're just going to see how that plays out and what implications it has for the coming trajectory of AI. All right, stocks. Bitcoin, 64,478. So what is going on stocks that are taking them higher? NVIDIA right here at 126.59. We did get some macro data. So first, obviously, China stimulated. We'll talk about the China stimulus in a second. However, initial jobless claims, folks, came in lower than expected. This is not good for the bears. Let me just say this. This is not good for the bears. Not just because the stock market's up. Forget the stock market being up. This data is denying a lot of the arguments around unemployment. So the consensus was 225,000 people would file for unemployment. Last week, it was 222,000. How many people filed? 218. It's not amazing that 218,000 people filed for unemployment, but the fact is it's lower than what people are expecting. And this is the second week in a row where we are lower than expectations. Actually, it's like the sixth week in a row we're lower than expectations, but it's the second week in a row that we're lower than expectations by a good 5,000 to 6,000. And that just means we're starting to get potentially unemployment under control. Not like we're reversing the economy where we're adding hundreds of thousands of jobs every month. I think we're probably going to add like 120 to 140,000 jobs every month for the next couple months. But we are maybe stopping some of the bleed in terms of what we saw with the initial jobless claims numbers. Again, one number, 1 week. We get this number every Thursday. But so far for the past couple weeks, including last week where we came in at a 6-week low, these are pretty good numbers. And then we got GDP. That was also very important. Now, what happened on GDP? GDP grew at 3%. The estimations were also 3%. So we didn't beat expectations, but again, a recession means we're not supposed to be growing, dude. Like we're not supposed to be growing at 3%. That's not supposed to happen in a recession. We're supposed to be growing negative, or at least we're supposed to be fundamentally lower than the expectations of what the market thinks. U.S. second quarter GDP grew at 3%. This is not bad. Like this is just not a bad thing to grow at 3%. And it's definitely not a bad thing to have the initial jobs claims. Now, tomorrow I'll be live at 8:20 because we get a very important reading on core PCE for inflation. It's what the Fed actually cares about more than CPI. If that comes in lower than expected, let me check the projections on that. If that comes in lower than expected, which tomorrow the street's expecting 0.2% on the monthly. If we come in lower than 0.2% on the monthly, or just at 0.2%, the street's expecting 0.1%. So the PCE price index, the street wants 2.3%. Month over month, they want 0.1%. So if we come in at 0% on the monthly or at 0.1% or below 2.3%, the last two numbers were 0.2% on the monthly and then 2.5% on the price index yearly, then we're going to be good. Like if we beat that inflation number, it is going to prove to the Fed they are doing the right thing. You can see NVIDIA right here up 2.4%. They are doing the right thing with lowering rates. China's doing the right thing with their stimulus. And it's going to prove that inflation's coming down. Again, the more inflation comes down, the more they can focus on the labor market. And because they're focusing on the labor market and they do rate cuts, more people have the chance to get jobs, more businesses have a better capital spending environment. Because inflation is not a concern, and you're not afraid about the reacceleration of inflation, the better it is for the overall U.S. economy. So the job numbers this morning were important. The GDP growth was also important. And then last night, this happened after the OpenAI news broke. China weighs injecting $142 billion of capital into top banks. Most of the funding will come from special sovereign bond sales. Move is part of economic stimulus package unveiled this week. So basically what I'm getting from this is they're going to take some of their debt. They're going to sell it to somebody who's willing to buy it for some type of a discount or whatever conditions they're going to give to sell off their debt. And they're going to use $142 billion they get from selling off some of their bonds. Again, everyone who hates the American 10-year or 2-year, I'd rather have American debt over Chinese debt, right? So whoever is buying this Chinese debt is buying it with some condition that they feel, hey, this is going to be good for China and we'll be able to get a decent return on this debt. That's going to net them $142 billion. That 142 billion is going to go into Chinese banks. Those Chinese banks are going to get a lot of liquidity. Those Chinese banks are then going to be able to give out that money. People that take out those loans are then going to be able to buy a house, get a mortgage. We saw China lower the reserve ratio requirements yesterday. So now Chinese banks have even more capital to give out. Basically, China said, hey, it's game on. We are absolutely deciding to start becoming a player in the global economy. FXI, which is the China ETF large caps, that's up 7.75% today for the week. If you went long China on Monday just because you woke up and, I don't know, you had some Chinese food for dinner and you're like, you know what, I'm going to go long China. You are up in the past 5 days, 10%, over the past month, 12%, over the past year, year to date, 27%. I mean, 27% on China, dude, to be a year to date up 27% is absolutely insane. Like, I see the Blues Clues jokes in the chat. The very original, guys. Very, very original. We got those jokes last week. You gotta get better than that. Intel up 3.5%. Palantir 37.43. I have some stuff to say on Palantir. We'll talk about that in a second. Tesla right here 262. The Nasdaq again. Tech being up almost 2% in the pre-markets only happens randomly overnight if you have a catalyst, and China is that catalyst. Alibaba now year to date. Remember, Baba was at 50 at one point, I think, this year. Is up 27% over the past 5 days. It's up 9% over the past month. It's up 17%. Now, over the past 5 years, still down 40%. But if you've DCA'd into Baba, you're doing okay. And so Baba is not doing that bad. Robinhood 22.89 up 2.23% in the pre-market. MicroStrategy up 3%, 156. You're seeing a lot of momentum across the board from these stocks because they're getting that China boost. The Japan Nikkei index, 574.99 on the S&P, also was up 2% last night, about 2.5. Literally right after this news came out, the Nikkei went up. Why did the Nikkei go up? Because Japan likes that there's more liquidity across the world. There is more money available for people to buy Japanese equities as well. So you're kind of seeing a lot of momentum in one place. The one thing I will say, Raphael says, how do you think we'll end the year? I think we'll end the year really good. One thing Tom Lee said yesterday on CNBC is that he's worried that we're going to still have volatility before the election, and then after the election we'll do well. So his argument is it's going to be really hard to hit all-time highs before the election, which is about 6 weeks away, and then keep going higher after that. And he's had this perspective pretty much since June. I mean, since June, he's felt it would be a rocky road. We would end up having a bull market towards the end of the year, but we would have to get through a lot of different elements of volatility. And the volatility today, from his perspective, seems to be the election. So this is all bullish. There's no, I don't see the bearishness in this. And once we get Q3 earnings, which will start in about a couple weeks, I think we'll get a better confirmation on how the consumer is doing. But we might still have some rockiness in October until that election's done. And once that election is done, we can move forward. We have Costco earnings today. We had Accenture earnings as well in the pre-markets. Accenture, one of the largest consulting firms on the planet. They're doing okay. And the stock's up, I think, about 3% right now. Here are the numbers for Accenture. And again, this is a good proxy. Accenture is intertwined in so many different business processes. Adjusted EPS up 3% year over year. Revenue up 3% year over year. They're buying back another $4 billion of shares. Bookings is up $20.1 billion. That's up 24%. That's a very good sign. Generative AI, just generative AI alone made them $1 billion out of the $16 billion this quarter. And then in consulting, they made about $8.6 billion. That's their core business. By the way, that beat expectations. The street wanted $900 million. They brought in $1 billion of generative AI consulting. Basically what this means, Accenture hires a consultant. They get a client. The client says, hey, how can you give us a generative AI strategy? That consultant goes to ChatGPT. They type in, hey, how do I give Pepsi a generative AI strategy? They copy and paste what they say. Then they put it into a slide deck app, probably like Canva. And they say, hey, Canva, can you make me a pitch deck? And then Canva just does it for them using generative AI. And then they go to the client and then they present a pitch deck on how they can use generative AI in their business. And they make $1 billion off that every quarter. That's what Accenture's generative AI consulting is. But if even that is worth $1 billion, then there you go. I think a lot of the other actual AI companies are going to get some momentum. I'm being hyperbolic here. The consulting firms actually do a lot more than just like make PowerPoints to try to figure out AI strategies for their clients. But the point is, if a consulting firm that's just based on giving advice is able to generate $1 billion, there is obviously a ton of momentum in the context of the broader generative AI landscape. And then you had Micron do well. We got Micron CEO on CNBC right now. Let's go to him. Shares are up 17%. Let's hear what he has to say.
our fiscal year that we just ended, 62% growth in revenue. And of course, AI is a great driver. We achieved a record data center revenue and a record mix of data center revenue, which is only expected to be growing further in 25. We have multiple product lines here addressing the AI demand in data center, high bandwidth memory, where we shipped several $100 million of revenue in fiscal 24 and expected to become multiple billions of dollars in 25. And high capacity DRAM, in addition to high bandwidth memory, another big growth driver for us, expected to become multiple billions of dollars in 25. And data center SSDs, we hit a record $1 billion of revenue in fiscal fourth quarter alone, and this too will be multiple billions of dollars. So AI is a great story, frankly, not only in data center. As you look ahead at smartphone and PCs, AI-enabled smartphones and PCs are going to require more memory content. So as we go through calendar year 25, particularly accelerating in second half of calendar 25, you'll see smartphone and PCs also continuing to drive strong demand for memory.
So what I learned yesterday from talking to Jose, who joined us in the market close, shout out to him, is every single device needs memory. Like every single device that is being used in our daily lives to some extent needs memories, especially the phones, the computers, etc. Now, memory, well, if that's the case, it becomes a commoditized business to an extent, right? Because like if everyone needs it, then a lot of players start jumping in to provide that service to the market. Micron uniquely has figured out how to use their technology to differentiate themselves to an extent, even if not fully, from some of the other players. And as a result of that, because of the data center uptick in demand, the devices uptick in demand, and then the sort of new upgrade cycle we're seeing for chips, not only in new phones, but also in new hardware like computers, laptops, etc., you're starting to see a larger necessity for memory storage. On top of that, the more memory you have in a device, or the more efficiently it's placed in the device, the better your training can happen as well. And right now, it's all about speed and efficiency around training. And so Micron has a tailwind. On top of that, forget like any of the fundamentals about Micron. It fell from 150 to 90, I think at 1.85 from the last earnings. So and they were growing 80% year over year. Any good numbers that they put up yesterday should have sent the stock flying, and that's exactly what happened. So if you had shares, if you loaded up shares in the 90s, if you bought some options, congrats. Just from a technical perspective, it made sense. Could the stock have fallen? Yeah, but if they had a good catalyst, which they showed really good numbers, given the stock had sold off 40%, kind of made sense that like the street would get excited about them, especially as we're going into a rate cutting cycle and entering Q4. So Micron right here up 17.8%. That alone took up the semis yesterday. And then China and the macro numbers we had this morning also really helped. So Broadcom's up 2%, ASML's up 5%, Intel's up 4%, AMD's up 3%, NVIDIA 2.5%, Dell up 3%, Micron up 17%, Lam Research up 8%, ARM's up 4%, Marvell's up 3%, Taiwan Semi is up 3%. I think if it gets to 195, it's at 189, it gets to $1 trillion company. Like, boom, you got the semis getting momentum, and Micron showed that the demand is there to continue giving them some more momentum. Zombie Esther says, Amit, if you owned Micron, at what price would you sell? It depends on my average. If I bought it right before earnings at 90 and it's at, I'm up 20% at 115, I wouldn't mind taking some off the table. Just if it was an earnings trade, then you won, right? And so you should take some. I would imagine taking profits is not a horrible thing, but I would look through. I haven't gone through their slide deck or listened to the call or anything. I would go through that, and maybe you want to become a long. Sometimes earning trades go so well, and you quite literally could have gotten the bottom, that it makes sense to just end up going long. So I would read through their stuff and see if you think this is a actual long-term play. But yeah, if it was an earnings trade, I think taking some profits is not a bad thing, because obviously you got into it to try to take some profits. Max 7 right here. Apple's up 1%. Microsoft's up 1%. Meta is up 1.8. We'll talk about Meta in a bit. Google's up 1.3. Amazon's up 1%. Nvidia's up 2.5. And then Tesla is up 2%. The Tesla event is officially happening. Elon tweeted, by the way, Michael Saylor just tweeted, "Take me to the moon, #Bitcoin," with a video. So Michael Saylor is bullish on Bitcoin. Elon tweeted the poster for 1010. A bunch of Tesla employees were retweeting it saying, hey, you guys have no idea what to expect. It seems like they're pretty excited for the event. This is what it looks like right here. The tagline is "We, robot." 1010 Los Angeles. I don't know, dude. I think this is going to be exciting. I think this is going to, I mean, like it's just like, I'm getting goosebumps already thinking about what they're going to do. They put a robot at the top, probably has to do with robo taxi. Maybe there's something they kind of show up with Optimus. Who knows? Like there's just, I think this is going to be the most highly anticipated event we've seen from Tesla since the Cybertruck. And whatever they show off is going to show a future trajectory for what Tesla is going to look like. And I'm excited. I'm pretty excited about this. Shout out to Mr. Derek Wall in the chat. Optimus Robotaxi, maybe, dude. Maybe they just show both together. Like, this is going to be a cool freaking event. And Tesla at 260. I mean, I don't know, dude. It's one of those things where it's like the 52-week high was 270. All-time high was 414. A lot of people on the technicals think there's a run to 300. 300 is very psychological if things go well. Rate cuts are bullish for Tesla. Let's not get that confused. By the way, China stimulating the amount they did is also super bullish for Tesla. 25% of Tesla sales happen in China. So, I mean, if you've been in it for a couple of months, I think you kind of, I know 1010 people say, or every event from Tesla sell the news. I get it. And maybe you take some profits right before just to hedge, but it kind of does feel like this event is going to be one of those events. And then we'll see how the street reacts. My thing here is very simple. It doesn't have to be rocket science. It doesn't have to be like, oh, you know, I'm betting that the event goes well and hopefully the street reacts. It is so simple. This is the easiest way to condense it in your mind if you're trying to navigate your Tesla position before this event. If you think Elon is going to give a specific timeline with specific deliverables on what the robotaxi or the FSD build out is going to look like over the next 6 to 12 months, meaning no sugarcoating. He says, hey, by March 2025, this will happen. By April, this will happen. We will launch in San Francisco, blah, blah, blah. Then I think the street's going to eat that up because they're going to be like, okay, so we have the projections. If Elon's lying about these projections, we're going to dump the shit out of his stock in 2025, but we're going to assume he's not lying. And we're going to put out the projections. We're going to look at the numbers. Okay, yada, yada, yada. With energy growing, you put the margins better, rate cuts coming down. Boom, we get a new price target. And then across the board, you're going to see 350, 375, 360. We're already seeing Piper Sandler at 315. I think Guggenheim is at 295. You're already seeing the firms start warming up to Tesla. If he gives specific deliverables, it's going to keep warming up. And if it keeps warming up, then I think you will get some momentum. Derek says, no way he's a liar. LOL, sell the news. That could be another thing. Maybe you get a timeline and it's not accurate, or the timeline just doesn't come and they show off a fancy, robotaxi, but then the event just leaves you with blue balls and you're like, well, what's going to happen? No one knows. And then that's a sell the news. So I think it could go either way, but I really think if Elon shows up some interesting results or some timelines on results, we're going to get some more momentum. So that's what we got in the context of Tesla. Crowd Control says Amit is playing in doubles tennis match after the stream. That's better than the Blues Clues one. That's better than the Blues. I'll give you that. That's a good one. That's better than Blues Clues. All right, Palantir. So our boy Peter was doing some stuff last night, and that stuff involved cashing out on another 4 million shares of Palantir. So Peter Thiel sold $4.2 million worth of not $1 million, million shares, a lot more dollars of Palantir. Now, what's interesting about this, which this means over the past week, he sold 12 million shares. So he cashed out on 156 million yesterday and 280 million the other day. So if you add 280 plus 156, you get $436 million. Guys, that is $500 million of stock. And that headline that was going viral last week or on like 2 weeks ago around Peter Thiel is going to sell $1 billion of stock. He's done half of it. Half of it's happened. You guys know the headline I'm talking about. The Barron's article, Peter Thiel plans to sell $1 billion of stock, even though that wasn't like real news because he disclosed that a couple months ago. Half of that is done. Having said that, no one freaking cares. Palantir is up in the pre-markets. Peter did not even get as good of a price as you could get right now if you sell in the pre-markets. Like Carp missed out on a couple. Carp missed out on what? Carp missed out on $18 million. If he waited for another $2, he would have had another 18 million today in his sales of 9 million shares. And even Peter, you might be getting a better deal than Peter. I think he got 36.9. That was his average yesterday. The street doesn't care, bro. Two of the largest insiders dumped 9 plus 11, basically 21 million shares of stock that has been held for decades, and no one cares. The street ate it up like there was no tomorrow. I am getting to the point where I think the cat is officially out of the bag and everyone is realizing Palantir is the winner. and they just don't care. Now, this could be a top signal. This could be like, oh, this is like super, frothy and toppish. I agree. That could also happen. But this could also be there is so much momentum that it does not matter. Palantir has found so many buyers, so much liquidity, whether it's institutional or retail, for these shares that Peter and Karp could dump. Remember last time they dumped, the stock fell 10% and we were stuck there for the next 7 months because it was like this Amazon, Jeff Bezos $200 wall. It's like we couldn't get through it. Now it's just like the stock market can't get enough of it. On top of that, yesterday, you had Dan Ives say, hey, my price target was 38. We're going to 45. Raising Palantir price target to 45, reflecting our increased confidence in the enterprise-driven AIP strategy, now a clear game changer for the Palantir story. We are more bullish on Palantir going forward as recent AIP checks show more enterprises are heading down this path. Put in the chat the number 40 if you think we're heading to 40 in the next week. Or not next week, next month. Because we're really close to 40. 40 is very psychological. Dan Ives' $45 target is a year out. Every price target is always a year out. Put in the chat if you actually think in the next month we are breaking 40. Because at this point, dude, I mean, and maybe I'm a little bit prisoner of the moment here because everything's green. And I know the valuation at 37 doesn't make a lot of sense. I've said that over and over again. So that's not new news. But at this point, it's really not trading on valuation. And at this point, I think the momentum, if Peter can dump 11 million shares in 2 days and the market doesn't care, there's that much liquidity for it. Maybe it's just short term and there's, there might be a little correction in a bit, but maybe it's also, hey, the market's like, this is the real deal and we're buying some Palantir. All right. So we have a lot of 40s in the chat. So pretty much everyone believes 40 is possible. Look, I don't blame you. I also don't think it's a delusion. Some people might say, oh, it's delusion. Everyone thinks it can go to 40. The valuation's insane. Like, yeah, I get it. But look, the valuation's insane at 37. Is it going to be that much more insane at 40? Right? It's kind of like, hey, if you're already like up there, you might as well be up there. It's like, if it's already that bad, if you're already paying 83 billion, you might as well pay 90 billion. It's like someone's buying these shares. Again, that's the beautiful thing about the stock market. I learned that this year. If you sell a stock, someone has to buy it. If you buy stock, you're buying it from someone who sold it to you. It's a profound existential realization I had this year. Holy crap. That's how this works out. Another realization I had last night, I realized when they changed OpenAI from nonprofit to profit, like it made me realize I've been stupid this whole time thinking like that. Like, of course that was going to happen. Like it actually shocked me. And I'm like, why is this shocking me? They're raising at 150 billion. If they're raising at 150 billion, Microsoft is not going to let them become a $1 trillion private startup in a Series F funding. No, Microsoft wants to get a return on that investment. These Thrive Capital that's putting in $1 billion wants to get a return on that investment. I think Thrive Capital is going to let them be private forever. Everyone's waiting for Stripe to go. But dude, the amount of people that are in Stripe in the secondary markets and in the private markets that are just waiting for this thing to finally go public. Stripe had to literally sell a couple $1 billion worth of stock or buy a couple $1 billion worth of stock. I think it was like $700 million worth of stock a couple of months ago because they had investors from 2009 that were like, bro, we've been in this for a while. Like, it's time for us to cash out. And so, of course, OpenAI was going to turn into a for-profit company. Like, they have to go public one day. You can't go public, to my understanding, as a non-profit. That's not how it works. And so it makes sense. And so now we're just going to see what ends up happening with OpenAI over the coming years. Rocket Lab, talk about a rocket ship, 2.2%. We got 1 minute until the market opens, folks. Thank you, everybody, for being here. But Rocket Lab, does it break $9 today? I mean, it's at $8.82. The momentum's on their side. ASTS had a phenomenal run. If Rocket Lab just starts to follow the run from ASTS, maybe this thing goes a lot higher. So shout out to everyone in Rocket Lab. Let's see if this can crack $9 today. S&P 500, 574.61. Intel up about 3%. Again, NVIDIA up 2.6%. 130 would be awesome for NVIDIA. 260 on Tesla. Palantir at 37.12. You got Robinhood right here at 22.79. Again, Apple right here, 227. Meta, we'll talk more about Meta in a bit, 575. 15 seconds until the market opens. It does seem like the China news, the macro news, the initial jobless claims, the GDP growth that came in at 3%, all of that is bullish. And that is why we have a green pre-market. And now we'll see how the market opens as we get into it. All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here. September 30th, not September 30th, September 26th, 9:30. The stock market is now open. Wake your ass up. Here we go. S&P 500 opens up at 574.3 on the day, up about 0.72%, 574.1 right now. So we're getting a little bit of a sell-off across the board. little bit of red candles. NVIDIA, there's a red candle right there, still green on the day. Robinhood, red candle, but still green. Palantir, red candle from 37.40 to 37.25, but still green. Micron still going up 18%. So Micron not seeing any of the red candles. Intel going up, not seeing the red candle. Tesla, you got a red candle from 262 to 260, but still is green. Snapchat's up 2.74%. Apple, that is fighting to stay green. Meta, Meta, I do think it deserves a pump after the event, but the glasses they introduced yesterday that we'll talk about in a bit, those glasses are not going to be out for another 3 to 5 years. Like it's going to take a long time for those glasses to come out. I mean, if they get it out in 2 years, that's ambitious. So really that's future projections, but I can understand how the street's excited about that. QQQ up 1.45%. GameStop's up 1.3%. Disney's up 0.5%. Celsius up 1.45%. SoundHound up 1.62%. MicroStrategy up 3.5%. Bitcoin at 64,300. Walgreens was getting hit yesterday. It's up a little bit on the day, 1%. SoFi up about 1% at 780. Rivian down about 10% on the week, up 1.89% on the day. Robinhood 22.65. Palantir just went slightly red, now back in the green at 37.18. Where is PayPal? PayPal is, wow, look at that. PayPal green on PayPal. 2.4% up on PayPal. Not bad at all. Tesla now below 260. Rocket Lab, it's up 1%, but you got some nice red candles there. People are definitely taking their profits. Look, it was a very green pre-market. I would imagine there are sellers there. The question is going to be, do buyers step in after some of that macro news gets interpreted as potentially more bullish? NVIDIA still holding on to its pump. It's down a little bit from 127, but 126 is incredible. Remember, NVIDIA was $102 like 2 weeks ago, September 6th. I mean, it added basically a couple $100 billion to the market cap now, 3.1 trillion at 126. So the momentum continues to be there. S&P goes not red yet, but it is down 0.5%. So the pre-market pump is dumping just a little bit. As we get into it, that Poet stock you guys talked about yesterday, that one's down 12%. That's kind of the only red stock I see actually on the watch list right here. Celsius is up a little bit. QQQ 492, Meta 574, MicroStrategy 156. Let's go to the crypto stocks. All of them are pretty much green. CleanSpark's up a little bit. Coinbase is up a little bit. MicroStrategy's up. Cypher, Iran, HUD, BitX is up. Now, the problem with the miners here is Bitcoin really needs to go to 100,000 for these miners to like really get the pump. This like 1 or 2% pump is not going to do much for the miners. It'll help MicroStrategy because MicroStrategy owns the Bitcoin, and as Bitcoin goes up, MicroStrategy's balance sheet goes up. But the miners like legit need Bitcoin to really go to the moon. So miners getting some love right here, but still they need some more momentum to see what could happen. Where is Palantir? Palantir now going red. Okay, that's fair. Is Jay Powell speaking? So Jay Powell's doing recorded remarks. I do not believe he is live. If he was live, we would be watching it, but I'm pretty sure those are pre-recorded remarks, and that should be posted soon. But yeah, it's not something we can literally watch. But we'll get the updates on what he has to say in a little bit. Yeah, look, Palantir also going red. I mean, again, dude, I'm being greedy here, thinking we can go to 38, 39, 40. That's why I asked you guys, how many of you guys really think we can get to 40? Because I think 40 is so close, but I'm also just like, dude, 40 is a big one psychologically, and it's going to be tough to get there. But if we go back to 33, 34, it's not something to complain about as a Palantir investor, given the run that it's had this year. So 37.16 right now on Palantir. S&P 573 still holding 5, and we hit all-time highs in the pre-markets at 575. So it's nice to see us hitting and maintaining above the 570s, which is important. HIMS is up 2.9%. Not bad. HIMS has been through a rocky year. It went from 10 to 25 and went all the way back down to 13 at one point. So HIMS has had some good opportunities to get in and out. But HIMS is green on the day. Is there any information on institutional ownership change on Palantir since inclusion? So not yet. We don't have the updated numbers yet. Oh, we will get the updated numbers probably soon. I still think it's closer to 45%. I think maybe we get to 47 when the updated numbers come out, not 50 yet. But there's enough liquidity to swallow up the shares that Carp and Teal are selling. So maybe that is institutional. Micron now up 17%, down just a little bit. Robinhood 22.50. Micron was up about 19%. Now it's up 16%. Rocket Lab 886. Rocket Lab still holding on. Look at that. Rocket Lab, they had a red candle, reversed all the way back. Oh, wow. Rocket Lab hit 921 in the pre-markets. I did not see that. This stock is 18% short, folks. I found that out yesterday. I also found out I bought a Rocket Lab spread for 2027 on Monday that I don't know why I bought it, but I forgot I bought it. And I looked at it yesterday and it was up 245%. And I was like, oh, that's like, I was just like, why is this thing worth 245? I was like, what is this? I was like, oh, it's a Rocket Lab spread. Should have bought more of them. Obviously, I couldn't sell it because it's for 2027 and no one's buying that right now. But yeah, maybe we'll just leave that spread. And in the next 2 years, we'll see if that goes up like 10x or something. But Rocket Lab right here at 888. SoFi is also 19% short, correct? The shorts, however, aren't necessarily getting squeezed on SoFi. I think on Rocket Lab, I don't know if it's a squeeze, but it kind of feels a bit more squeezy. So that's kind of the difference there. But Rocket Lab getting some momentum. Look at Rocket Lab, 8.88, maybe tries to get to that 890 and then potentially into that $9. Now 891 on Rocket Lab. Dell's up 2.3, Tesla's up 2.59, Apple 226. What's red? Berkshire's red. So we got value going down a little bit. DJT is down 4%. The Trump stock, that's down. AutoZone is slightly negative. ServiceNow, based on the Caresoft investigation yesterday, that's why that's negative. Are any semis down? Let's go to the semis. No, all the semis are green. Look at that. Even Intel. Intel was up 4%. Now it's up 1.4%. So basically, as the market's open in the past 6 minutes, we were really green. Now we're still green, but it's not really, really green. And the question becomes, does this green turn into a little bit of red, or do we kind of just revert back to being really green over the next few hours? And we'll see what ends up happening here. Maybe when Jay Powell's comments start hitting everyone's terminal. But Intel right here up about 1% of the day. NVIDIA up 126 as well. Magic Fruit Bat says Tesla's 1010 event, We Robot, indicates that there is more than one product vehicle being revealed. The entire fleet is waking up in robotaxi mode via OTA update overnight like iRobot. That would be crazy, bro. That would be insane. That's not a horrible theory. I was trying to figure out what does We Robot mean. That's not a horrible theory. Again, dude, if that happens, and then you got that energy business growing 100% year over year. I mean, the fact that Microsoft signed a deal with Constellation Energy, their stock went up 30%. You got Oklo, which is basically a penny stock that's public, but that's up 30%. It's up 3% again on the day because they're potentially working with this nuclear fission reactor with Amazon for data centers. I mean, the amount of Tesla's like a real company. They're not a penny stock. They're a real company producing real growth in the triple digits for the energy part of the business. You would think the street gives that a bit higher of a multiple, even if it's a smaller part of the overall business. Because what if it becomes a much bigger part of the business if Tesla is one of the players in the solutions for the growing demand for energy? I just don't see how that's not part of the overarching thesis on Tesla. Palantir now going negative at 37.02, down about 0.27% on the day. Robinhood 22.55. Rocket Lab, whoa boy, 8.97. Let me see how many shares on Rocket Lab until you get to 9. Rocket Lab resistance at $9 is 44,000 shares. So 44 times 9 is $396,000. If someone or a group of investors spends approximately $400,000 to buy Rocket Lab shares at $9, that wall will be broken down. PayPal $79.46. $80 would be very, very psychologically exciting for PayPal. Doug says Elon is absolutely going to broadcast when he flips the switch and all the Teslas instantly become robotaxis. Dude, that'd be crazy. Could you imagine they have like this prop and there's like a legit switch and they just flip it up? That would be crazy. That would be insane, bro. Oh, there's NVIDIA. There she goes. 127.52. If you bought that NVIDIA dip, congratulations. It was actually a little hard to buy that dip if you bought that dip after earnings. There was a lot of FUD going out around NVIDIA. I mean, a lot of FUD around NVIDIA. I remember I wrote up a big post that night. It was a long post about how NVIDIA being a bubble makes no sense. We went through the PEs, the numbers, yada, yada. And I would say it was 40-60. 60% of people were kind of agreed, like, yeah, it's not a bubble. The other 40% were like, no. This is absolutely, this post itself feels like a bubble. And I'm like, okay, so you're just trying to be funny here, but you're not like legit looking at the numbers. If they do $5 of EPS in 2025 and you put a 30 multiple, which is very conservative, that is a $150 stock. That is not a bubble. Maybe it's cyclical. I'll give you that it's cyclical, but if it's cyclical over the next couple of years, that's not a bubble. That is like a company producing real revenues that has 70% operating margins on a hardware business. That's not a bubble. That's just a product that has the most pricing power on the planet, dude. And so there you go. NVIDIA at 127. Now, is it getting a little overstretched here before the election, before earnings? Maybe. You could argue it might be getting a little bit overstretched here, and it maybe falls back to 120 or 115. But the idea that it goes back to 60 or 70, I mean, I don't know, dude. The revenue growth they're putting up just doesn't make sense to assume that would happen. Duolingo at 291. Duolingo actually fell from 297 to 285 yesterday during the Meta event because they talked about this language translation thing that Zucks brought up, and that was kind of bearish, you could argue, for Duolingo, but still up a decent amount from 2 days ago. Palantir right here at 36.89. That's down about 0.5%. SoFi 7.81. PayPal 79.17 as well. Where's Baba? We didn't even look at Baba. Wow, Baba 7.2. Who's long Baba? Put in the chat. Be honest. Who's long Baba? Who's long Baba? Who's long Baba? Who's long? I know there's 2,300 people here. There's someone who's long Baba here. I know a lot of you guys are anti-China, but I'm pretty sure there's got to be someone. Raj says I have 5 shares of Baba. Okay, so that counts. Dude, I remember in 2020, the first time I heard they put Jack Ma in like a friendly location that no one knew about. And I was like, what the fuck? That's when the stock was at 300 and it started to go down day after day after that news. But could you imagine if Jeff Bezos disappeared and no one knew? And you ask the government, hey, where's Jeff Bezos? And they're like, we don't know. Like, Jeff Bezos just magically disappeared. That's basically what happened to Jack Ma. Like, could you imagine if that happened to Elon or Zuckerberg or any American technology CEO? Like, the media would be asking so many questions. In China, the media was like, the weather today is really nice. They just didn't even acknowledge it. It wasn't even a thing. And that's when I realized, Baba's different. Baba's not Baba. The CCP is Baba. That's what's going on. All right, we got some people who are long. Not that many people are long in the chat, Baba, which is fair. NEO, by the way, also getting some love because of China. NEO up 6.55%. There you go. Where are the banks? Are the banks doing okay? XLF is green. KRE regional banks are green. Where's JP Morgan? JP Morgan slightly green. Bank of America. We saw Warren Buffett sell some Bank of America a couple of days ago. 39.38. That's slightly green. PayPal 79.20. Tesla 259. SoFi 782. HIMS is trying to go for 18 at 783. It hit 18 for a second, still up 3.2%. Palantir now down officially about 0.5% at 36.88. Makes sense. People taking some profits. Palantir, one of the only red names out of all the green. S&P still holding 573. If you're just joining, initial jobless claims came in at 218 versus 225. That's good. And GDP growth for second quarter for this fiscal year came in at 3% for 2Q, which was matching expectations. So those two pieces of macro data came in this morning that were good. Is Rick up? Is Rick up 1.3%? Doug says Rick is up. Hey, shout out to Rick. If any, I don't have any Rick, but shout out to Rick. One day I need to meet up with some of you guys, and we need to go see how Rick's establishments are actually like. We need to do some due diligence on Rick. We need to do it. Iman, thank you for the 199 super chat. Do you think QQQ is hitting 500 today or tomorrow? So I think for the Qs, it's at 491 right now. You see this red candle right here from the pre-markets. I think 500 is very psychological for the Qs, and they're not going to get there easily. So if you look at the year-to-date chart, it was at 503 on July 10th, went all the way down to 420. If you bought that QQQ dip, congrats. That was a nice dip, and then it rebounded right here. We're kind of close to getting back to that level. I think for that to happen, you kind of need NVIDIA and Tesla to kind of carry the slack because Apple's done its job for what it could do. Also, the other reason why it's not at 503 is because Google was at 190 at that time. Google's at 160. So you kind of need Google to get back to 175. I think you need tech to keep moving. The fear I have here, not that it's not bad, it's not good to go long QQQ, because in general, I think going long tech makes sense. But it's that if Mag 7 earnings are not amazing and we start to see a little bit of diversification outside of the Mag 7, meaning Mag 7 doesn't tank, but they kind of just don't perform as much as something like IWM, which, by the way, is up 1% on the day, then maybe the Qs, they've had a good run this year, but they don't need to go to like 530, 540 or something. Now, if we have a crazy rally end of year, people are calling for the S&P at 6,000. I don't see how the Qs are not, at 500, 520, because like the S&P still is tech at the end of the day. I don't think the other 493 companies can take the S&P to 6,000. It has to be the Mag 7 along with the other 493 companies. And so I would imagine earnings growth, can get the Qs to 500, but I don't think that happens today, randomly. Or I really think Google has to help play its part to get it there. Maybe if Tesla goes to 300, that helps it as well. Google right here, 164.98, up 1.22% on the day. Google still trading at 21 times forward next year's earnings. AMD is up right now. AMD up 167. AMD up 3.5%. Eden says, I have 50,000 shares of Baba in paper trading. You know what? The fact that you're even doing paper trading, that is a good thing, dude. That is, I do that all the time. Like, just like in my head, I'll take mental notes of certain trades. Like, I have my watch list has certain options on it that I'm not literally in, but I take a look at what it looks like if it went up or down. Like, I think everyone should paper trade. Everyone, no matter how sophisticated you are, because you don't have money to get into every, deal that you like. And so it's always nice to know, hey, if I do I think this potential thing will happen, even if I don't have money attached to it. And at least can I test myself on kind of my hypothesis. UNRM or URNM is up 15%. Yeah, that is because uranium and nuclear energy is catching a bid. We saw that with the Microsoft deal. I don't know much about nuclear energy. I need to do a lot more research before I think like going long on it makes sense. I would imagine just the pure energy thematic of it makes sense more than fossil fuels and just gas itself. But yeah, I mean, look, we need the energy from somewhere, and maybe it comes from nuclear. Faraday Future is pumping? No way. Faraday Future. That's how you know it's a green day, folks. Faraday freaking Future is up 16%. Holy crap, dude. Faraday Future. Goodness gracious. That is insane. That is absolutely insane. Gerald Quartz, thank you for the $5 super chat. He says, what's a good stock to buy in now for the long term? Don't worry, I'll buy at my own risk. So why doesn't, well, let's have the chat answer that. Personally, I think a lot of stocks are up there in valuation. We talked about this for the past couple of days. It's kind of hard to find a good opportunity. Put in the chat, what do you think is a good opportunity? I mean, what do you think theoretically is something that is actually trading at a valuation that's reasonable right now? Or not that's reasonable, but that's like attractive to get into, right? Because like you could buy certain companies that are trading at elevated valuations, but what's something that actually feels attractive? Of course, everyone says Tesla. Everyone says, what? Fuck it, Tesla. Tesla's always a good buy. Tesla right here, 260. My opinion on this is unchanged. Either Elon announces something that's specific or he doesn't, and it tanks. If they announce something specific, it's going to do well. But it is quite literally based on that. Where's Visa? Visa got sued the other day. Visa's up a little bit. Visa recovering a little bit right now. Where's Rocket Lab? Did Rocket Lab get to $9? Rocket Lab, $8.81. All right, so Rocket Lab still trying to get back to $9. Nike. By the way, I have been buying HUD this week. I bought like 140 shares over the past couple of days at around $22.40, $22.50. Nike's up 2%. Nike had $90. We haven't seen that in a while. So from what I've been buying, it's been HUD. And that's just because my conviction on it is deep, and I do think there's catalyst coming up, but that's what I've been buying. STT, thank you for the $2 super chat. What do you think about SUNN? I have no idea what this ticker is. Sonova? Yeah, I have no idea. I'll put it on my list and take a look at it, but I have literally no idea. I've never heard of this ticker before. SUNN. I'll get back to that on tomorrow. Just remind me in the chat tomorrow. I'll look at it tonight, and we'll take a look at Sonova Energy. Price of sales of 1.6. No dividend, $1.3 billion market cap. Seems like an energy small cap just on the first look, but I'll take a deeper look at it. All right, what else? Okay, let me read some Meta headlines. So I recapped Meta a lot last night. I talked all about it, so not going to go super in depth talking about Meta. However, all you need to know is that they've got some big glasses coming out. They've got new Llama 3.2. They've got new AI tools for the creators. Like, they just announced a bunch of cool AI stuff, which was the bulk of the presentation yesterday. So JP Morgan raised them to 640. They said the recent Meta Connect conference showcased the company's continued progress in artificial intelligence, which is driving early returns through core product enhancements around content and ads. We believe Meta has earned the right to spend big on AI. That's a hell of a statement, given how much the street hated him spending in 2021. Backed by strong core operating results, early AI benefits engagement and monetization, and increasing clarity on the AI product roadmap. Then you had Bard raise Meta to 605. With most of our ad checks looking fairly decent for Meta in Q3, we remain comfortable with our near-term estimates. We are raising our 2025 growth targets to reflect steady macro trends and incremental contributions from messaging devices and AI-driven platforms. We believe our operating margin estimates are slightly below consensus as we anticipate higher networking and depreciation costs from infrastructure build. Basically saying, hey, they're going to spend some more on CapEx, but that's okay because there will be a payoff based on AI. Tesla right here, 259, Meta at 576. Another firm upgraded Meta to like 800. I think I gotta find that upgrade. If anyone knows it, let me know. But I saw it this morning. It was like 815 or some crazy number. So like they went super bullish after the event. By the way, Micron was raised to 250 by Rosenblatt. by Rosenblatt. They said, we continue to view Micron as a top pick for 2024 and our biggest semi-memory cycles ever. So they believe that the semiconductor ecosystem is going to grow so rapidly and you're going to need so much memory. Micron will have so much demand, up 16% right now. And that's what gets them to $18 of non-GAAP EPS estimates in 2025. So Meta got upgrades, Micron got upgrades, and overall broader markets, you know, based on some of the data have got some momentum. S&P still up about 0.5%, AMD up 2.8%, Rocket Lab up 2%. So market's taking a little bit of a red candle. Again, not a red enough candle to go fully red. All of them are still pretty green, except Palantir, Palantir, 2665. That's down about 1.25%. Nvidia still holding on to 126, man. Nvidia, I mean, look, someone's buying it at 126. These are hard levels for Nvidia to get at. It was at these levels for like 3 weeks and then it tanked. So these are not levels that it's chilled at for a very, very long time. You really chilled at like 105 to 115-ish for the most part over the past couple months. So it's nice to see it in these high 120s. Amit, have a look at KSPI. I'll put that on the list as well with Sonova. KSPI, $20 billion company. KSPI, interesting. KSPI. What is this stock? Nightscope Inc. Oh, wait, am I looking at the right one? No, I typed in the wrong. KSPI. Yeah, I've got to look at this one. Don't know this one at all. Kaspi.ka. Oh, this is ADRs. Are these China? Oh, no, this is from Kazakhstan. This is a company in Kazakhstan? It's worth 20 billion? What? Interesting. $20 billion company in Kazakhstan. I've never seen that before. All right, I'll take a look at that one. I will take a look. 10 cents up 9%. That makes sense. Obviously, China. That's why it's getting momentum. Cheesecake 41. Interesting. Cheesecake Factory. Do they have earnings yet? Do we know what their numbers are from Cheesecake? Cake stock this year. Again, I love. Put in the chat if you've been to Cheesecake Factory. I love Cheesecake Factory. It's up 20% this year. Cheesecake Factory is one of my favorite places to eat, and I think they have some of the best cheesecake. You know, I think they're a somewhat a glance on the state of the consumer because they're not luxury dining or like fine dining, but it's not as cheap as like going to like obviously McDonald's or something. So you got to have, I would say, a family of 4. You're spending $100 at Cheesecake. If you take out a date, like you're probably spending $70 to $80. Like, especially if you get drinks and stuff. So you have to have some decent money there. If they're getting some momentum, maybe their sales aren't too bad, and maybe that's a little bit of a sign of the consumer. S&P at 573, Google at 165 right now. Of course, Amit loves Cheesecake Factory. What does that mean? What is that? What assumption about me loving Cheesecake Factory is? I'm curious. What does that mean? Dude, Cheesecake Factory is great, bro. It's awesome. Carrie, thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Do you think Tesla will respond to basics, fundamentals? I mean, look, Tesla is going up right now because they have momentum. Is the company actually worth $830 billion given the declining sales growth and the declining operating margins and the declining EPS growth this year? Probably not. But I think that's why I think Palantir and Tesla are very similar. Palantir is probably not worth $85 billion right now, but Palantir has a story, and that story, the street feels they can grow into it. Tesla at $800 billion, everyone thinks, by the way, speaking of Tesla, let me bring up this take because I'm very curious what you guys have to say on this, and I think it'll be a good discussion. Everyone thinks that FSD is going to take over the world. I'm one of those people that thinks FSD has a chance to take over the world. I really think humanoid robotics is where their big moat is going to be. But in the short term, if FSD starts scaling, this becomes a legit software company. We've seen plenty of software companies worth $800 billion before. You have a software company like Tesla with SaaS margins with millions and millions of vehicles across the road. Those are fundamentals that are not quote unquote fundamental, like operating margin, PE, price of sales, but those are qualitative fundamentals that cannot be denied at all. And if you deny them, then you're just denying kind of where the world's going. So I think if Elon says something really important on 1010, we will get a pump, and maybe there's a shot to 300, but it has to be a timeline that's specific. If we get no timeline, nothing specific, I think we dump. And I think it dumps probably 10% because I think the street is fed up at this point and they're betting on them, but they want something real. And I think they might get a chance to get it. Okay. So speaking of Tesla, you guys got to help me on this take. So this is very, very interesting in my opinion. First of all, let me do a poll in the chat. Let's get how the chat feels about this. I want to see what you guys think. Here's the question. Does Tesla kill Uber with FSD? Let's see how many people say yes, how many people say no. Let's see. Ray says it drove me an hour all around Houston. Dude, the amount of anecdotes I'm getting from friends who have FSD about what it's doing for them, it's like, it's making, I've never tried it again, but it's making me believe that like, this is the real deal. And so now if you have an official timeline, I think the street's going to be very, very excited. So the reason I asked this Tesla Uber question is because Jason Calacanis, who is a good friend of Elon Musk, one of his best friends, and a early investor in Uber. When I mean early, I mean he literally invested at a $5 million valuation. Uber is now worth $100 billion, and I don't think he's sold a single share. So he's had a lot of momentum with Elon or with Uber. 59% say yes. Okay, so he had a take yesterday, and I think it's a really important take to go through. I think a lot of people will get some value just from the thought process of trying to figure out if this makes sense. He was responding to Farzad. You guys know Farzad. I was on his show last week. So Farzad said Uber is done for. Farzad's like, Uber is going to die. Tesla has their own app. They have their own manufacturing process. No one's going to order an Uber. They're dead. Jason said something that really made me think twice about that take. He says there are a dozen folks who will solve autonomy in the next 36 months. Uber has half of them in their network already, the Cruise, Waymo, etc. We will see who the other 6 are over time. Tesla doesn't have to partner, of course, but partnering is the quickest way to reach 10,000 cities that Uber operates in around the globe. He's not wrong about that. Uber's already everywhere across the globe. And there are billions of rides, hundreds of millions of members. I think Uber has like 140 million monthly active users. Why an autonomy company wouldn't partner is the real question. Partnering lets Tesla, Waymo, Cruise, BYD, etc. focus on car production and software, what they're good at, while Uber focuses on operations, logistics, and cleaning the puke in the backseat of the cars. Also, the people who partner with Uber will grow the fastest, so the world will probably be Uber plus 12 partners, or it might be Uber plus 11 partners versus Tesla. Tesla, Waymo, BYD, Cruise, and Uber will be the biggest players, and the pie is going to grow 20 to 30x. That's a hell of a take. He's basically saying, yeah, this idea that Uber is done for, actually, Tesla can focus on AI. Uber can focus on the logistics. If Tesla's going to be making 80% gross margins from their FSD revenue, can they give up 30 or 40% of that to Uber? Is that worth 140 million riders every single month? Especially when when Uber knows that they want to get rid of the driver. Eventually, Uber has like talked about that the driver is going to be gone, right? And that'll increase Uber's margins. Yeah, I would imagine maybe Tesla's not hating that idea. And then, Farzad had this response about how he doesn't see it that way. I think Jason responded again to it if I can find it. Oh yeah, Jason did. So Jason had another response and I can't find it right now. But the other response Jason said was, by the way, I don't have insider information. I'm just saying that it seems likely that Tesla and Uber will collaborate. I disagree with that. I'm not saying Jason has insider information, but dude, Jason is Elon Musk's best friend. You don't think they talk about how things are going to scale? Like you don't think he's had a conversation? Jason has what, a couple $100 million in Uber from 2008 when he invested. I don't think he has that much in Tesla. He is obviously concerned to some extent that Tesla could, if Tesla's going to kill Uber, Tesla would ruin the hundreds of millions of dollars that he's made over the past decade. By the way, his LPs, his limited partners who invested in his first VC fund in 2008, they want to return on that money at some point. I would imagine if you've got the guy's phone number who's going to kill your biggest investment, you would have a conversation with him and be like, hey, what are you thinking about this? So although he's talking as if this is his original idea that Tesla will partner with Uber, I think there's a hell of a chance that Tesla legit is going to partner with Uber just based on conversations Musk and Jason have had. And when you think about it, it does make a lot of sense. Why would Tesla want to get rid of Uber? Yeah, they get most of the pie, but like business is about partnerships and like moving quickly and building their own ride hailing network kind of feels like it would take too long to do that. And it would be too aggressive of like a task to enable when you're trying to just get the regulations approved for self-driving. So let me know what you guys think in the chat. 55% of you say yes, 45% say no. I thought it was a reasonable take. Arnie says Jason knows Musk wants to partner. I think so as well, dude. I think for him to say, for him to clarify in a second tweet, like, hey, by the way, I don't really know anything about this. I'm just saying these are my own ideas. I think he realized, oh, that tweet was so good that it kind of sounds like how this is going to play out. And like that happens, right? I mean, like you would imagine that they talk about this a lot. So I don't know. Cash King says, when I was in Istanbul, I saw a ton of Ubers. I did not see one Tesla. Yeah. So when Tesla gets to Istanbul, instead of having to figure out how to navigate the ride hailing market, if Uber could just control all of that and take a percentage of the revenue, maybe that's the momentum. Jason is a big investor in Uber. That's correct. I don't know how much his personal stake is worth. I think his firm's stake is worth a lot of money. And so he has to distribute it back to investors. Like it's a lot, dude. He invested when he invested 25 grand when it was 5 million. And so, I mean, there's a decent amount of money he's made just by compounding that. And he hasn't sold a single share. Same thing with Robinhood. I think he hasn't sold a single share of Robinhood. He's been in Robinhood for a long time as well. He's seed invested in them, or I think Series A invested in them. So I would think he has some ideas on how this story plays out. Robinhood right here, 2270, AMD at 168, S&P still holding on. Look at that, S&P reversing a little bit. There's your reversal. Bottomed at 573.7, now at 573.8. IWM at 220. Look at small caps. Wow. Hold on. How are small caps up 1.5? NVIDIA's up 2.6. That's incredible. For small caps and NVIDIA to both be getting momentum is exciting. The Qs are up 1%. Bank of America's up 0.2. BABA's still up 7. SoFi up 1.2. Palantir is one of the only red names today, which is okay. It's up a lot. But 36.87 right now on Palantir. What happened to Amazon? Is Amazon red? Amazon went red. I don't know. I was actually listening to a podcast last night on the way to the airport from picking up my mom. I was listening to a podcast about Amazon, and I was listening. It was someone talking more deeply about how the world is going to the cloud from on-prem, and how 85% of the world is still in the cloud, is still on-prem, and all these AI suite of tools that AWS or Azure or GCP offer, they're primarily in the cloud. Like, you got to be in the cloud to get access to those. So Amazon, I mean, like, dude, it's one of those things where it's not original for me to be like, Amazon's going to, take over the world and keep growing and growing and growing. But sometimes you just remember the scale of infrastructure that they have, how big the market really is. The fact that only 15% of the world is on the cloud, AWS doing 100 billion TTM. And then the retail business is finally profitable for like the first couple of years after 2 decades. And if they can get the entire operating margins to get above 10%, I think 200's on the way for Amazon, barring Bezos doesn't destroy that on earnings day by selling all of his shares. Krupa says, Amit, I don't think we talk enough about AMD and TSM. They perform very similar to NVIDIA and Palantir in the AI field. Yeah, I mean, the thing about AMD and TSM is, remember, they are parts of the machine. TSM right here, $970 billion market cap, to delivering the GPUs. AMD, not as much. TSM, yes. AMD, a little bit more of a competitor with NVIDIA. But they're both part of the broader semiconductor supercycle. The problem with AMD and TSM compared to NVIDIA is they don't grow like NVIDIA. That's the difference. That is the fundamental difference. And if they grow like NVIDIA, then I think they're going to get more momentum, but they still are very important in the broader semiconductor ecosystem. JetBlue, where's JetBlue? Wow, JetBlue's up 7.27% today. Interesting. So we got some momentum on JetBlue. Are the other airlines up right now? United Airlines. Is that up? UAL is up. Wow, why are the airlines up so much? United doesn't move 6% in a day, dude. That doesn't happen. Southwest is up 10%. Who just bailed out the airlines? Did Buffett just invest in the airlines? Dude, how did no one in the chat tell me that all the airlines are mooning? What is going on? The airlines don't go up 10% in a day like this. What's the other one? Delta? Delta's up 6%. Southwest is doing a buyback. Okay, but how is that making all the other airlines go up? It makes sense why Southwest is up 10%. There's got to be something. The airlines don't go up all at once, dude. The airlines are one of the most boring industries. They don't go up. Oil is down, so airlines are up. How much did oil go down today? Holy shit. Oil's down 4%? Why is oil down 4%? Dude, that's another reason the market's up today. Because when oil goes down, input costs for everything goes down. I mean, goodness, that affects everything, dude. Everything has to be transported from one place to another. All of that has costs involved. Why is oil down 4%? The Saudis increased production. Okay, hold on. Last week, the Saudis said they're going to not increase production. So why did they change? Hold on. Let me look this up. What? This is, dude, the Saudis increasing production and China turning on the money printer. I mean, what more could you ask for, bro? Holy crap. Which, hold on. That means XLE must be down badly right now. Where's the oil stocks? XLE, I think it's down 3%. It's down 1.4%. Where's XOM? ExxonMobil is down 2%. Oxy's had a tough year. That's the one Buffett investment that hasn't gone that well this year. Oxy's down about 2%. Okay, so energy is Energy is getting hit a little bit. Why did the Saudis do this? What is their game plan here? Oil prices slipped by more than 3% on Thursday on a media report that Saudi Arabia, the world's top crude exporter, will give up its price target in preparation for raising output. Saudi Arabia is preparing to abandon its unofficial price target of $100 a barrel for crude as it gets ready to increase output. Meanwhile, two OPEC sources told Reuters on Thursday that the producer group is set to go ahead with a December oil output increase because its impact will be small, should plan for some members to make larger cuts. The Saudis did not immediately return for requests for comment. There's got to be something deeper here. Why are they doing this? Why are they giving a solid right now to the global economy? Maybe they think it's going to benefit them. Maybe they don't think $100 is sustainable to get there. I mean, this is not bad, dude. This is not too bad at all. Wow. So there you go. All the airlines are pumping on this. JetBlue's up 7%, United's up 6%, Southwest 10%, Delta. Where's American? American Airlines should be up 2%. American Airlines, wow, up 7%. Shout out to TJ. TJ got some covered calls that are under pressure right now on American Airlines. I think his covered calls were at 11 and it was at 1082 2 days ago. He's like, it's not going to 11. Well, the Saudis just said it's going to 11. But that's okay. I don't think he cares about owning those shares, so he'd get those called away. Wow. This is incredible, bro. To impact U.S. elections, I mean, maybe there's some reason. We got a $40 super chat. Velox03, thank you for the $40 super chat. Thank you for all you do. I watch you every day. Please buy one pounder on me. You know what? We're going to do that right now, Velox. Thank you for that super chat. I will be buying a share of Palantir right now with your $40. There we go. $36.95. Thank you for that, Velux. I really, really appreciate that. There we go. We got to share a Palantir. See how Robinhood makes it so easy, dude? Just like swipe up, boom. There you go. It's very dangerous. 2019, that was really dangerous when I was buying a bunch of shit that was stupid. But it's still, it just makes it so fun. So thank you for that. Really, really appreciate that. There we go. Got another one of Palantir. Now look. September's ending pretty soon, folks. September has been red for the past 5 years. And it looks like September year to date, or not year to date, S&P stock monthly, it's up 2%. Dude, we've been down 5% for the past 5 years on the S&P. We got 4 days left. We'll see what happens. But I mean, it's been a heck of a month with the variety of things that have happened. China, Fed, now the Saudis. And that's why we got some momentum. Is Celsius a buy? Dude, you know what? I'm trying to figure out the answer to this. If anyone has a real thesis in the chat, say yes. Because let's say Celsius goes to 25. Let's say it bottom feeds at 25. I don't know if that's a good buy. Like, I want to say yes, but I also want to say, wait a second. They've collapsed from 90 at this point to 30. Either something's wrong with the brand, something's wrong with the health concerns, something's wrong with the same store sales, something's wrong with the momentum. So I don't know. I mean, a lot of people are talking about Celsius getting exciting in the 20s. Like, why? Why would it be that exciting in the 20s? If the growth slows down, this is not an exciting company. It's just an energy drink brand that is un-American because they didn't name themselves Fahrenheit. If they were named Fahrenheit, I would have invested during IPO. So an un-American energy company that has too much caffeine, that's not growing that much in the 20s. I don't know how exciting that gets. But obviously, there might be something I'm missing to the thesis. Our friend Jason, who's a good friend of the show for Technical Tuesday, he loves Celsius, but he loves the technicals more than I think the fundamentals. He drinks it every day, so I guess that's like his core fundamental thesis. But I don't know if that's enough. Doug says no, and I'm a Celsius holder. Like if it gets to 20, does the PE is 35 for next year? Like what's the growth rate on Celsius, and what does the PE become if it drops another 10%? I mean, the 3-year growth rate on Celsius is 105%. Last year, they did in 2023 1.3 billion. So you'd imagine they get close to like hopefully 1.5, 1.6 this year, and then after that, are they going to guide for 2 billion? I mean, dude, doing 2 billion in revenue is incredible, but gross margins of 50%, is that enough growth to compete and justify the valuation, especially in the context of Monster, given how much market share they have as well? What did Powell say? That's a good question. All right, so let's find out what Powell said. So Powell had some recorded remarks this morning. Can I find Powell? Is he on CNBC? Hold on. Hold on. Give me a second. Let's see. They still have the Micron guy on CNBC. No. Okay, so here's a quote from Powell. I'm getting it, but so here's the first thing Powell said. Powell said, quote, I said then that these markets. Is this a real quote? Hold on. This is weird. I said then that these markets need to keep functioning at a high level, and we all have a stake in making sure that they do. I remain wholly dedicated to that goal. Did Powell actually say this? Meet Kevin just tweeted that. Did in first post rate cut speech, Fed Chair Powell doesn't comment on monetary policy. Did Powell actually say this? Bitcoin pumping? Hold on, what's going on with Bitcoin? wait, hold on, what's happening? What's happening? Where's Bitcoin? Where's Bitcoin? Holy shit, we got a big candle on Bitcoin. Robinhood just went 22.79. Hold on, did something just happen? Meta's at 5.73. Where's Palantir? Palantir went green? Wow, Palantir just full reverse. Dude, something just had to happen. Something just pumped everything. Nvidia 126, Robinhood 22.80. What just pumped Bitcoin, dude? Was it that? Did Powell actually say that, dude? That looks insane. Gary Gensler said Bitcoin is not a security. What? That is interesting. Well, there you go. That makes well, okay, so remember, the entire debate with the SEC and Coinbase and Robinhood is, hey, crypto are unregistered securities, yada, yada. If Gary Gensler finally has admitted Bitcoin is not a security, that means it is not subject to securities and exchange laws, which means it can be governed in a fundamentally different way, which is obviously very bullish for the health and security and investment thesis that people have into Bitcoin, which is why we just saw a 2% pump. There you go, baby. There you go. Okay, so you're getting some momentum there. I'm trying to get some more stuff though. I'm trying to get. That's not new. He's already said that. Well, then why? So then what's the pump? If he's maybe that went mainstream today when he said that. That's why people got excited. Let me see. Gary Gensler. That's already been established under Jay Clayton. That's fair. Oh, this is going viral right now, dude. Okay, so let me play this. This is going viral right now. Apparently, this is going viral for some reason. I feel like if this is not the reason, it has to be something else. But here's what's going on. I'll try to get some other news on what Jay Powell said while we're watching this.
But there's some argument to be made that you want this. That actually, it would be better if all of this business was happening in the U.S. You talk about an SBF. Obviously, that was taking place in the Bahamas. And, a lot of people were trying to do things in other places. If there was a.
So Rodolfo says he didn't ever say it directly like this. So maybe he said it before, but it's not been as direct as he's doing it on CNBC. And that's why we're seeing this pump.
But there's some argument to be made that you want this. That actually, it would be better if all of this business was happening in the U.S. You talk about an SBF. Obviously, that was taking place in the Bahamas. And, a lot of people were trying to do things in other places. If there was a real regime here that everybody could trust and we had established rules and there weren't these questions about whether you were going to go over the line or you're behind where the line was, would that be better?
I think that we do have those.
So you think those lines exist? Then why do people in the industry say that they don't know what the rules are?
Look, not liking the rules is not the same as that there aren't rules. And I think there's a lot that have profited off of the public's interest in this field, but profited without the proper disclosures. And inherently, there's business models that have a lot of conflicts. And we've seen the results of that time in and time again. Outside of crypto and inside of crypto, we see what happens when there's so inherent conflict. So we've got 90 years of experience with this, Andrew. It works reasonably well. We've got the deepest, most liquid capital markets. We're trying to make them more efficient. What we're doing in the equity markets,
I think
what we're
you're
doing in the
warming
treasury
up
markets.
to top tier crypto. That's my take.
What's that?
I think you're warming up to top tier crypto. I don't think you think it's a monolith. I think you think there might be some actual usage or benefit to top tier crypto.
Look,
Have I got? Would you say recently you're evolving to where? Go ahead.
Joe, where are you on what's called altcoins? There's 15 or 20,000.
That's what
of it.
I
Where
know.
are you, Joe?
But you, when you came in, you said, yeah, that I probably only own Bitcoin, and you act like that's okay for me because I don't own all the garbage. I think you were thinking. So I just get the feel.
Garbage was your word.
I know, but are you
It was
warming
not
up
that
to
kind of a word.
Huh?
It was not that kind of a word. That you,
Yeah,
Actually,
that's right.
Joe, for the public, used a stronger word than garbage.
I did, but
Okay, we'll go back to that. I've got Jay Powell's opening speech. It's only 2 minutes, so let me pull that up. But it's then we'll go through the transcript. But here's what Jay Powell's 2 minutes opening remarks said.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 10th Annual U.S. Treasury Market Conference. 10th Annual is a phrase that generates a bit of surprise and much pride. It is surprising because it does not seem like the first of these gatherings, which I was honored to play a role in organizing, was all that long ago. But we can also take pride because the conference has proven useful and important for a full decade, as I expect it will do for many more years to come. Much has changed in the economy since we first gathered in 2015, but the importance of the U.S. Treasury market has not. As you all know, this market is the deepest and most liquid in the world. In addition to meeting the financing needs of the federal government, it plays a critical role in the implementation of monetary policy. It is no exaggeration to say that the Treasury market is part of the bedrock of our economy and indeed of the world economy. The October 14 flash crash and the subsequent publication of the Interagency Working Group report on that event are what brought us together for the first annual conference. October 2014 was a wake-up call because there had never been such a large swing in Treasury prices in such a short period of time. The Interagency Working Group report shed light on how much the structure of the Treasury market had changed and how large a role high-speed electronic trading firms were playing in it. It also showed the value of cooperation and communication between the 5 agencies in the working group, something that proved again to be vital during the disruptions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm pleased to see that all working group members are represented here today. You will be hearing directly from many senior leaders, including your host, President Williams, Vice Chair Barr, and Secretary Yellen, who of course was Fed Chair at the time of the first conference. It is essential that our Treasury markets are able to efficiently transform Treasury securities into cash, even at times of elevated stress. As I noted at this event in 2015, these markets need to keep functioning at a high level, and we all have a stake in making sure that they do. I remained wholly dedicated to that goal. I wish you a productive and educational conference. Thank you.
That's the quote that we just saw, guys. That's the quote. Let me play those last 10 seconds again. That's the quote.
We all have a stake in making sure that they do. I priorities into cash. As I noted at this event in 2015, these markets need to keep functioning at a high level, and we all have a stake in making sure that they do. I remained wholly dedicated to that goal. I wish you a productive and educational conference. Thank you.
These markets need to keep functioning at a high level, and I remain wholly, whatever he said, dedicated or whatever to making sure that shit happens. And we all have a stake in making sure that they do. I remain wholly dedicated to that goal. Holy crap, bro. I'm not saying he's like literally saying, yeah, we need to pump the market, but the idea, look, the markets need to keep functioning at a high level. That could mean a variety of things. I get it. But just the very sentiment, the idea that he said, hey, on August 5th, we investigated what the hell happened because that's not markets operating at a high level. What markets operating at a high level means we don't see that type of volatility. Maybe that's what he's talking about there. And he's making an argument that we need to keep things in check. It definitely looked like AI. It's obviously not AI. Bitcoin trying to get to 65. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. Look at this Palantir chart right here, dude. Whoever gave me that 40 to buy the share, thank you. I'm already up on my share. So thank you for that super chat. We're already up on that share. But this is pretty incredible. Jay Powell saying, hey, we need to make sure markets function at a high level. Again, that wording is peculiar. I don't think it means we need to pump the markets, but rather it means we need to make sure things don't break. And that's his job at the Fed. Robin right here, 2284, Nvidia 126, Palantir 3721 after bottoming at 3660 on the day. And you got Bitcoin you're trying to get here to 65,000. So you had the Saudis pump more oil. You had China pump more money into the banks. And you had J Powell with this AI video basically say we need to pump the markets. I mean, what, like, dude, like this is what we needed. All three of those things happening basically in 24 hours. And then Openai drama just for the hell of it. That doesn't really affect anything. That just makes things kind of fun. Like, I mean, you got all that happening at once. There you go. You get some momentum. There's Bitcoin at 65,000. 65,000. Last time we saw 65,000, August 2nd. Actually closer to July 21st. July 20, or basically that mid-July range is when we saw these levels. Since then, it went all the way to 49, went all the way back to 63, then came all the way down to 53, now back at 65,000. There you go, folks. Not bad at all. I imagine the Bitcoin miners are having a good day. Robin at 2276, Bitcoin mining ETF up 4%, 2x Bitcoin ETF BidX up 6%. CleanSpark up 7%, Coinbase up 5%, Marathon up 7%, Cypher up 3%, all of them running based on Bitcoin getting to these levels. Yeah, I still don't know if this is because of Gensler, though. I mean, let's finish that final minute of the Gensler thing. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was because of J-Powell. Maybe when J-Powell said, hey, we need to like focus on markets functioning at a high level, and basically kind of just said, you know, things should be strong with monetary policy, and that we should work hard to kind of fix any issues. That's what got the overall markets excited.
Are you warming up to, do you see that it's probably here to stay and something that could be useful?
This is something I said to students 4 and 5 years ago.
I know, but you didn't say it to once you were the SEC chairman.
No. That this field will not long persist without investor protection or consumer protection. Number two, many of these projects, without prejudging anyone, are tapping into the public's interest to raise money. That's the classic securities sort of protections that you put in place. You can decide to go long or short these projects, but you need the disclosures. And as it relates to Bitcoin, my predecessor and I have said that's not a security. You now have a way that you can actually express that view, buy into that through exchange-traded products, traded on NASDAQ, traded on New York Stock Exchange and the like.
Okay, that's a yes then.
Where do you think Bitcoin is going to be in our society 20 years from now? If you were to sort of,
I don't really know.
You have any idea?
I don't know. I mean, there's 7 billion people around the globe. I'm not going to make a prediction as to any one project, but what I would say is the field is going to have a challenge building trust.
Right.
And it already has a challenge building trust when there's so many fraudsters, scammers, grifters in the field, and there are.
But what happened?
Bitcoin's mooning. I don't know if that's what did it. I don't know if him saying it's not security, even though, yeah, I agree. He seems like he said that before, but if it's not J Powell and it's not Gary Gensler, then what's pumping Bitcoin up 2.7%? Look at that. Healthily getting above 65 right now, 65.2. What is it? If it's not these guys, Robin at 2280. If it's not Gary or Jerome, then what is it? What's causing this right now? I mean, it has to be something, dude, that caused this is a pretty aggressive move that we're seeing right here on Bitcoin. Broke the trend. That's very exciting. All right, maybe it's something more technical. Philip with the quality analysis, more people buying than selling. That is fair. Silver has bought 10 million Bitcoins. That helps. It's got to be something, bro. Something that's helping. NNE up almost 14% today. Is this the energy company? Nanonuclear. Yeah, dude. Oh my God. These energy companies, bro. Now, I think people just need to be careful. These are a lot of small cap energy companies that you guys see going up 30, 40% in a day. Just be careful with them because the euphoria can get up there. But a lot of times this stuff is just a deal that comes and street buys it up or it's pumped up and then it can crash. So if there's a legit thesis on an energy company and you want to go long the next 10 years because you want to be long energy, then it makes sense. But if it's under $1 billion and it's pumping like this, then you're getting something happening momentarily, and you have to see if that is real at the end of the day. But yeah, this is another example of an energy company catching a bid along with the other ones we saw, CEG. And I would imagine CEG is a little bit red on the day, but I would imagine some of the other energy companies in alternative energy go green simply because of the fact that oil is down, which is potentially a tailwind for them. Bitcoin just dropped all the way to 64.8, then came right back to 64.9. So some violent moves right there. Look at that, from 65.2 to 64.9. Now trying to get right back to 65. Don't forget Enovix. Well, Enovix is not energy, it's batteries, right? Enovix is different, but yeah, up 2.87% on the day. Where's Enphase? Enphase 113. Snowflake. TJ and I closed our Snowflake puts yesterday. It's good that we did. We were up 73%. So we made about 5% on 58,000, which is not too bad for about a month of holding it. 10:30 rule. Yeah, we got 4 minutes. 4 minutes till 10:30. 10:30 lasts for like 20 minutes and then we can move on. That's wild, bro. Even Palantir, that reversal on Palantir was exciting, bro. 37.20. Again, for those just joining, Peter Thiel sold 4 million shares yesterday. Market doesn't give a shit. Market does not care. Dan Ives raised this price target to 45 yesterday. So that was bullish. And those are the main updates. With I think Sham was talking at some, I'll cover it later. I'll like post some videos on it, but Sham was talking at the Hudson Institute this morning. I don't think any other updates. We did have that deal yesterday with the oil and gas company, APA. Oh, we have a video right here. Ileana posted. Okay, here's Sham. Here's a 1-minute video of him talking today at the Hudson Institute. And then we'll get some more updates on OpenAI. We'll go into that.
Palantir is become kind of quietly famous for a practice that you guys do of embedding programmers in with the war fighters, embedding programmers on the battlefield. Explain to us why that is such a different move compared to some of your competitors, and how effective that move has been.
Well, it's the anti-playbook. I mean, VCs hate it because it seems like it's never going to scale. What are you doing? This seems like services, not product. But what it misses is you're not going to have your good idea eating strawberries in Palo Alto. You're going to learn that on the factory floors of Detroit or in the fire cells of Djibouti. Amen. And you need to go observe the empirical gaps that exist. You know, if it could have been solved through a requirements document, it would have been solved. So
I can't make it louder, guys. That's the video. I can't make it louder.
Everything deductive and top down is what the system is built for, which is actually a very unnatural way for an American to operate. We are improvisational and creative. That's our strength. That's our culture. So how do you get the talent right next to the problem so that they can hold themselves accountable to shipping lethality every single night? And if you do that long enough, that gap really compounds. And you start to see the warfighters then come to appreciate that, oh, this software is a malleable weapon system. It's actually my most malleable weapon system.
Okay, I'll try to get better audio later. I'm sorry for that audio. But basically, he's talking about why Palantir is winning. And it's based on this idea that products are the core thesis on how they're gaining momentum versus just the nature of how people think it's services, when in reality, there's useful products that have some elements of services to them, like some consulting, but overall still products. Here's the tweet if anyone wants to look at it. Garcia posted some tweets on this as well. I'll put that in the chat. You guys can watch that. Joe Lonsdale, I don't know, he was there as well. Yeah, the audio is not that good on this one either, so you guys are going to have to listen to it yourself. If I play it, it's not going to be the best audio, but there it is in the chat. Palantir 37.20, Meta 568. Meta letting go of its pump. 10:30 is here. Meta basically is about to go red if this continues. The airlines are still doing great. Enovix up 2%. Where's the S&P? S&P is also giving away a decent amount of its gains, but still up 0.5%, which is not bad. Bitcoin as well, just tanking. Oh, man, 65 was a tease. 65 was a tease. 65 was a tease. Tesla's dumping. Tesla's dumping too. Yeah, Tesla. What happened? What happened to Tesla? Oh my gosh. Well, Tesla's dumping. There you go. So one thing about the oil prices going down is that it's actually bearish for Tesla. Because if oil prices go down and OPEC starts producing more oil, that means gas prices should go down. And if we have low gas prices, a lot of people are not going to be like, oh my God, I need an electric vehicle because I'm paying so much at the pump. Like, I'm paying what, $270 at the pump? 270 is really reasonable given I was paying $490 a couple years ago. So more oil on the market is not really a tailwind for Tesla. In general, it probably makes Tesla a bit more effective. It makes their supply chains more efficient. Their input costs decrease. But it is a bit harder to be compelled to buy an EV if gas is cheap. I don't think that's the reason it's down, though. I mean, maybe that's the reason it's down, but Tesla is getting a little bit of a dump there. Now, remember, Tesla's up like 30% in the past 3 weeks, so people will take profits here. It is going to be a debate with the bulls and bears on if the hype is real enough for 1010 to pay off, or if it's a sell the news. Like, really, it's going to be one of those. Quite literally, is it sell the news or is the hype real? Let's do a poll in the chat. Let's do a poll in the chat. I want as many people to participate as they can in this one. I want to get a good read on this. Is 1010 worth the hype or sell the news? Let's see what you guys think. Sell the news. Okay, so the first one is Elon will prove everyone wrong. The second one is sell the news. Let's see. Gil says 263 gas in Texas. Yeah, dude, gas is coming down. Can it be both? No. We're talking about the stock, bro. I don't care about the company. I do not care about the company. I care about the stock right now. Even if it's some revolutionary product, whatever. Is it going to be enough for the market to be like, it's Elon's world and we're just living in it? Or is it sell the news? Remember, when Tesla was at 138 and Elon had the earnings call, Tesla went up to 165 because Elon was waxing poetic about the beauties of FSD and Optimus after a really shitty quarter. This was in July, or this was in April or May. And the street was basically like, hey, it's your world. We're just living in it. Either it's going to be like that, or it's going to be, it's our world. You're living in it. And you're not really doing a good job giving us money in this world. And so we're going to take away money from you. And then it goes red. It's going to be one or the other. Now, Tesla's not $130 anymore. So, by the way, I was guilty as well. When Tesla was 130, I thought it was going to 125. Even though I did buy some call options on that day, if you guys remember, and then I was up like 700%, even though I couldn't get any liquidity on those because it was expiring too soon. But I also thought, man, it's at 130, maybe it goes to 125. And then they just proved everyone wrong. Now it's at 260. Does it prove everyone wrong or do they pump? 58% of you say sell the news. Wow. 58% of you say sell the news here. He would have to announce something big for it to be worth the hype. IV is too high for people to hold after. I mean, that's a good point. That's a great point. The IV on the options into, I think, 10-11 is the expiration because 10-10 is the Thursday, right? Yeah, Friday, those 10-11 options, those are massive. Either 10-11 is going to make people a lot of money or people are going to lose a ton as well. Sarah says, I'm getting a semi-self-driving hybrid instead. Elon talked about this himself, that a lot of people are choosing hybrids. So yeah, I think that's why the FSD pivot has to happen. He knows like EVs are not the revolution he thought it would be in terms of everyone buying an EV. And maybe that does happen, but FSD seems more realistic because so many people just don't care about needing an electric vehicle. They're fine with a hybrid vehicle. So I think the pivot to FSD makes sense. 1030 bears are coming in hot. That is correct. Palantir just went red. Celsius, Bitcoin was flirting with 65,000, got to first base, then got rejected. Amazon's red. Robinhood 2263, Nvidia 125. Damn, Nvidia was trying to push 130, bro, or at least 128. Now it's back to 125. Granted, this is healthy, dude. I mean, it was pretty frothy in the morning. We can all admit it was pretty frothy. Like this is very healthy for this to be a slow, gradual grind until after the election, and then kind of just let that play out. S&P at 572 as well. At 10:30 every day, we have a theory in the chat, and it's not even an original theory. It's a theory I heard from a bunch of other people that recognize the same thing, that algorithms, for some reason at 10:30, decide to sell off the market, kind of shake out a lot of weak hands. Or just like, take profits on different trades, and then they get back in basically by like 10:45, 11 a.m. They're back in. Mayor says money market funds hit 7.67 trillion. Hold on, is the update out already? So my update updates, maybe you have can you send me the link to that? My update comes out at 4 p.m. This is the website I use, which is the Asset Management Industry Investment Company Institute. This has always been the most accurate from my understanding. If you have another one that says money market funds went up, that would be very interesting. That'd be very interesting. So yeah, I would like to see if that happened. Eric says it's tough being a leader. The whole market starts to sell off and people say, what's wrong with Tesla? Well, that's the thing, dude. I feel like we all have to like humble ourselves a little bit. Like Palantir's down 2%. All right, it's up 120% this year. Tesla's down 2%. It's up 82% from the bottoms. Like any like sort of volatility here is not really super, super hardcore volatility. But usually at 10:30, this stuff tends to happen. Ultimate Kyle says gas is below 250 in Houston just in time for the election. It is what it is. People like lower gas. That is something that is always beneficial for people. Douglas says national interest in the ICE vehicles are going to keep sopping up these oil industry subsidies and keep prices low. Yeah, dude, in general, I feel like in 2019, 2020, there was a real EV hype that was going on and like everyone was thinking of getting an EV and it just doesn't feel the same right now. But what does feel like real momentum is a self-driving. Like there's so many like TikTok and Instagram videos of people getting into a Waymo or a Cruise and it just drives them around. And like, it does feel like that's going to become much, much more real than 20 million electric vehicles being sold by 2030. I could imagine 20 million drives being done on FSD. That I could see that happening way quicker before 20 million EVs sold. So I don't know. It's one of those things where I think we'll start seeing momentum. And that's not just me ideologically saying that. We're seeing Europe. The numbers in Tesla for registrations are 35% lower than what they were last year. It's the lowest it's been in 4 years. So and we're seeing those delivery numbers, right? And you could blame interest rates, but it's also kind of the consumer sentiment around EVs in general. But rides, I think rides are what consumers want. If oil is cheap, then so is electricity. Sure, that's a fair point as well. That's a fair point. It's just most people have an ICE vehicle, right? So if it's about transitioning, if oil is cheap and gas prices are cheap, they're also, maybe not that compelled to transition, at least in the short term. Guys, that tweet that Elon happened to quote tweet, that is 8.7 million views I'm seeing right now. I have never had a tweet get 8.7 million. So shout out to Elon because that is quite a stimulus package for a post. That's a decent amount. You can obviously tell Elon, this whole post was about OpenAI. Elon is not happy with this OpenAI stuff. And I imagine maybe he comes out and he decides that he's going to sue them. Maybe he has better stuff to do, but it definitely seems like he's thinking this is illegal and this can't happen. So I guess we'll see how that plays out. For OpenAI, let's get another update. Let's get some coverage on it, and then we'll keep going from there and see what's happening right now as well.
Kate.
Hey, David. Yeah, a lot happening with OpenAI in the last 24 hours. It right now is in the process of pivoting from being a nonprofit to what's known as a benefit corporation. This is according to a source familiar with the matter. It comes as the company wraps up what could be the largest private funding round in history, at least the biggest in recent memory. It would value OpenAI at $150 billion. That's again, according to a source familiar, who also tells me that Sam Altman will now get equity in this company for the first time. In the middle of that, though, some material changes were seen in the C-suite. OpenAI's Chief Technology Officer, Mira Murati, stepping down yesterday. She has been instrumental in OpenAI's growth, developing ChatGPT, for example. You might have heard this name. She became really a household name, at least in Silicon Valley, when she stepped in as interim CEO about a year ago when Sam Altman was momentarily ousted by the board. Murati has been an advocate for responsible AI and AI development. She did not say why she was leaving, aside from wanting, quote, time and space to do her own exploration. Chief Research Officer Bob McGrew also resigned yesterday, plus another top researcher. Altman tweeted that all of these decisions were made independently, but this has absolutely been a trend for OpenAI. Bulk of its co-founders are now gone. You have names like Ilya Sutskever, co-founder, left earlier this year. John Schulman and Jan Leke went over to rival Anthropic. Greg Brockman, one of the founders, is on a leave of absence. The list goes on, but this talent exodus, it's a major vulnerability at a time when OpenAI is battling it out with other tech companies. It's got the lead at this point with its large language model but others are really sprinting and spending billions to catch up. You've got Anthropic absorbing some of these executives, Meta working on its competitive open source model, Google, Amazon, all really sprinting at trying to have the top language model here. And top researchers is one way to win and having deep pockets. But yeah, the latest guys at OpenAI.
Yeah, but not stopping the enthusiasm amongst potential investors to the tune of what, as much as $6.5 billion coming into the company, Kate. I mean, just to your point, to put that in perspective, we have IPOs here that raise a fraction of that. It's an enormous amount of money, and getting to $150 billion value, of which...
Folks, we got Jannet Yellen. Let's see what she has to say. Let's see what she has to say if there's anything interesting here. Here we go.
I am here just a couple blocks away from you at the NYSE with Treasury Secretary Jannet Yellen. Thank you for joining us, Madam Secretary.
My pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
So we're here at the Treasury conference, and we're going to talk. They're going to be talking about stability. You're going to give a speech soon about stability in the market. Some things have seemed to work out right. Are we past the period of time where you have concerns about the balance sheets of banks and their exposure to high interest rates? And then what are the risks that you're concerned about? You mentioned in your speech stable coins. You mentioned the non-bank financial sector.
Yes. So we want to make sure through our work with the Financial Stability Oversight Council and more broadly that we have a well-functioning financial system that can contribute to growth. With respect to the banking system, I believe it's well capitalized, and we did see risk materialize a year ago. I think we've dealt with those successfully. It did show, though, that a vulnerability is a high level of uninsured deposits in parts of the banking system, and inadequate access to the liquidity that's needed to be able to address deposit runs. The deposit runs were large and very rapid. And so a good deal of thought is going into how to shore up the liquidity, the access to the Fed's discount window for banks that do have uninsured deposits.
Are you looking to Congress to guarantee deposits over $250,000? That's Congress's mandate now, not something that you can do really broadly under Treasury Federal Reserve mandate.
So I really think this is up to Congress. The FDIC issued a report, discussed some possibilities. This is for Congress. But in terms of access to liquidity, better functioning of the discount window, making sure that banks are prepared to borrow from the discount window quickly, this is something that the banking regulators are working on and discussing.
If you don't mind, let's shift to talk about the economy. Some revisions to GDP this morning told us we didn't have 2 negative quarters in 2022. Right.
What? Did anyone see that? There was a revision in the economy that said we didn't have 2 negative quarters, so we never had a recession, even a technical one. Did you guys hear that? I didn't know that happened. I didn't know they revised that this morning. What?
Generally upward. Gross domestic income came towards GDP, which is obviously a kind of thing only for the wonks in all of us here. Broadly, do you see us heading towards a soft landing? And do you feel like inflation is sufficiently under control?
Okay, let's see what she says here. I would imagine she says yes.
Well, I do. I think that all of the indications we're seeing, both in the labor market with respect to inflation and with respect to growth, suggest we're on a path to a soft landing. And of course, there are always risks. We are seeing a less tight labor market and some growing a little bit more slack in the labor market that we had previously. The unemployment rate has drifted up, still low by historical standards, but hopefully this is going to turn out to be a stable situation with the Fed supporting continued strength in the labor market, and inflation has come down considerably. The last mile on inflation involves housing costs, and I believe there's good reason to think that they will fall. Market rents have declined considerably, and with a lag, I think we'll see housing costs fall further, and that'll take the Fed to its 2% target. So I've said for a long time, I always believed that there was a path to a soft landing. that it was possible to bring inflation down while maintaining a strong labor market. And to me, that's what the data suggests has happened.
Okay, so I know you think a lot about the Fed.
Wow. So we didn't have a recession in 2022, and Janet Yellen is very confident we will have a soft landing, and she believes Jay Powell is going to be able to lower interest rates and kind of navigate it the right way, even with the labor market cooling down a bit. There you go.
But I also know you don't talk a lot about the Fed. So I've
That's
written a
true.
carefully crafted questionnaire to see if you might respond to it. When you think about the level of rates now relative to the progress on inflation, do you think that rates at the Fed are too high?
Well, you do see in the material, in the comments of the chairman and in the projections of the members, an expectation that rates will come down more and that short rates are currently above neutral. And when you have an economy that's growing at potential, that's operating at full employment with inflation in the vicinity of the Fed's target, that suggests that a more neutral stance of policy is appropriate. So the Fed has had a policy of running a tight policy to bring inflation down. We've seen considerable progress on that front. And yes, I believe over time, if we stay on that path, that rates will decline toward neutral.
Do you have an opinion about the pace at which they ought to get there?
That's getting into details that clearly.
I mean, look, bro, whether you believe her or not, you could have whatever opinion you want to have about her. This is about if we're going to have a soft landing or not in 2024. And you've got China ready to give us a soft landing. You've got Jay Powell ready to cut rates. You got Janet Yellen, who's on his side. You've got the Saudis, who are making oil come down to levels really we haven't seen in a while, given we were chilling at 70 and 80, really 85 for the majority of the year. And so now, as long as Q3 earnings, S&P 573, Palantir 3720, go well, I don't see the cataclysmic recession that people are talking about. Like, I just don't see it. I don't know where it's coming from. Is it the AI bubble? I mean, look, Micron itself is one of the arguments for why there's not an AI bubble. Those are real numbers that they're putting up because there is real demand. Is it unemployment? Well, rate cuts should hopefully help unemployment, and you might not believe the job numbers, but we're not losing jobs per month. We're not net negative. We're still at around 100,000, which is decent. That's not necessarily an argument of a recession. Now, I'm not going to say recession's gone because the consumer still is struggling, and I've been very transparent about all the data I've shared on this show that, yeah, the consumer's not in the best situation. But is that enough to cause a full-fledged recession over the next 4 months? I don't know. Where's Tesla? Tesla's crashing. 253, down 1.3%. I don't know why Tesla's down, folks. If anyone knows, let me know in the chat. Let me see if I can find some searches. I just had a friend, though, text me that he sold all of his Tesla call options, and he had a decent amount of them. So you've got some people kind of going a little negative right here. Like, literally, I got the text like 2 minutes ago while the video was playing. So you do have some people taking profits. Again, it's up a lot for the past week, so it could just literally be taking profits. I don't think there's anything fundamental there. Over the past 5 days, Tesla's up 5%, past month 18%. So down 1%. It could mean nothing, but it also maybe could mean something. We kind of just have to see. Again, Philip, with the fire analysis, more people selling than buying. There you go. SMCI Justice Department probes server maker Super Micro. Okay, I don't know what the stock looks like. I'm going to guess it's down 2% on this. It halted. Holy shit, it's halted. It's down 4%. My 2%, the market was like, we're going to double that. Bro, SMCI has been through hell the past basically 3 weeks. First, you have Hindenburg. Well, no, actually, first you have earnings where their gross margins go down by 5%, even though they increase guidance by $5 billion. Stock tanks. Then you have Hindenburg says, hey, we're short. Then they recover all of the 11% they lost after the short, and like everything's great. And then the day after the short report, they said, yeah, we're not going to file our 10K for a while. And then it falls, I think 35%. It ended up falling from that level. Recovered a little bit from there. Now the Justice Department is going after them. Holy crap, dude. I wonder if Hindenburg closed their short or not. If they didn't, maybe you're going to get some more momentum. Is Rocket Lab up? Where's Rocket Lab? Rocket Lab, 881, up 2% right now. Dude, if you're a Rocket Lab shareholder, you can't be upset. Rocket Lab's holding. I mean, the fact that it's holding the 8s is incredible. Rocket Lab's doing its thing. So right here, up 2% right now on the day. Wow, SMCI really got halted. That 4% must have been like within seconds of that thing coming out. Holy crap, dude. Justice Department probes. Let me see if I can find the exact headline on this. Dude, there's so many things happening today, bro. So much happening. Yeah, it's just that headline. Justice Department probes server maker Supermicro. Oh, holy shit. Supermicro ex-employee accused AI server of accounting violations. Dude, I don't know if you guys have kept up with Supermicro that much, but there have been many rumblings in the grapevine that SMCI is cooking their books. Like you can go down a rabbit hole some days and you can find people that like dig up a lot of stuff and be like, no, they're definitely cooking their books. If they actually are cooking the books, if SMCI is actually cooking the books, I mean, dude, that's going to be not good. And that's definitely not good for NVIDIA. Yeah, NVIDIA is losing a lot of its gains today. I mean, again, NVIDIA is the big client of SMCI. You don't want to see that stuff happen. Bitcoin, 64.9. Trying to get back to 65. From my experience, when a stock falls that hard, you got to wait 1 or 2 months to buy. Look, that's fair. That's fair. You know, it's the hardest thing in the world, dude. And everyone has their own philosophy, but like, it's hard to figure out, you know, when you want to get into something, even if you like the name after it goes through some turmoil, right? Like CrowdStrike for me at 270, I felt the pain from 350 to 270 was enough for me to get excited, given how I valued the situation. And I was wrong for a bit because it went all the way down to 190 on August 5th, yada, yada. CrowdStrike could still crash. It's right here at 279. It was at 300 the other day. Maybe it goes to 250. But that was me personally saying, you know what? I feel like it's time to get a little more excited here. But it's hard to figure that out, dude. If you're really bullish on SMCI, like, and it goes to 385, then you buy it and you're up at 450, you feel great. And then this comes out. What if another lawsuit comes out against CrowdStrike and it goes to 250? And I'm like, well, the 270 buy didn't make sense. It's like, well, that's why obviously it's hard to time anything. But it's one of those things where sometimes you have to have your own personal philosophies on when you wait until the dust settles to get into this. Chris says zooming out months or quarters from now, SMCI will probably be fine. Not if they're caught cooking the books. If they're cooking the books, I don't think they're going to be fine. But I don't think they're cooking the books because they like NVIDIA has real numbers. NVIDIA is one of their biggest clients. They're getting real demand from NVIDIA, real revenue from NVIDIA. If they're cooking the books, you can make the argument, is NVIDIA cooking the books? And I don't think NVIDIA is cooking the books. So if they're cooking the books, they're in trouble. If they're not cooking the books, then I think they're going to be okay. Have they even filed their 10K yet? Has that come out? Can we check on their website? Is their 10K out? Because like that's also, it's been like almost 3 weeks since that stuff happened. So that would be important to see. SEC filings. No, the 10K is not out. 10K is not out, bro. The 10K is not out yet. Holy crap. It's not out. I'm on their website right now. It's not out. Damn, dude. How's gold? Let's see. Gold ripped up yesterday when that China news came out. Gold is up, of course. Gold is up. Money printer is bullish for gold. Money printer is bullish for gold. The 10K for 2024, yeah. That's the one that they said they were going to file late. SMCI is trading again. I can't believe it got halted on that news. Yeah, there you go. There she goes. There she goes. Now down 7%. Unless this headline is BS, and maybe some people feel like it is and they're buying the dip, or this headline is real. Again, it's so hard to figure out when you want to step into something after a crash. Like for example, when Palantir crashed to $20 on May, not in August, but in May after good earnings. I know it was one of those things where I'm like, all right, I like this. This price is dumb in my opinion. I'm going to buy. But you just never know sometimes, dude. You never know. So the SMCI, if you're I know a really big SMCI bull on Twitter. He was buying at 600 when it fell from like 750 to 600 on earnings, which is a big drop. 750 to 600 is a big drop. But he was like, this is stupid. I know this company. They're going to keep growing. They increase guidance, yada, yada. And those $600 buys were not amazing buys. You know, it's just, and now long term, maybe it's an amazing buy, but like short term, it's not. It's like you just never know sometimes. Sometimes it maybe does need a while for shit to play out before you buy. Derek says tax harvesting time cleared all my positions at top. Wow. So you've got Derek claiming a top. It's 50-50 on the Elon poll. Who thinks it's a top? Put in the chat if you think it's a top. Put in the chat if you think it's a top. Who thinks Derek's right? This is the top, or at least a short-term top, or are we going higher? I don't know. I think we have election volatility to deal with, and then we go higher, but it might be a little bit short-term of a top. Tesla now down 2%. S&P up. S&P is falling. S&P is falling. Bitcoin falling as well. Wow, dude. I haven't seen things fall this hard since I saw Courtney back in first grade, dude. Talk about falling for someone, dude. Look at this falling. Goodness gracious. Did Derek just call the top? Or at least a short-term top? Look at this guy. Look at this mother effer. Look at him laughing. Look at this guy. Where are the airlines? Are the airlines still getting hit? Are the airlines getting hit? United. No, the airlines are resilient today. The airlines love the oil news. The airlines love the oil news. They're down a little bit, but not as much as the rest of the market. Delta's up 5%. CrowdStrike's down 3%. S&P's holding on by a thread. Apple's green a little bit. MicroStrategy's still up 5% because of Bitcoin. Rivian's down. Wow, Rivian below 11. Rivian below 11. Oh my gosh, why is it tanking? I'm going to use Phillips analysis. More people are selling than buying. That is my analysis. Okay, so Derek's thesis is, yeah, it's a local top. Trump will change it when he wins, and then that's when you go all in on Bitcoin. Okay, so that's one thesis, that it's a local top for the stock market. Trump wins, all in Bitcoin changes, is the right play because it changes the narrative from stocks to crypto. Maybe that's what happens. Maybe that's how it plays out. I mean, Bitcoin right here. I mean, Bitcoin, it's down right now, but it's still holding up really nicely compared to equities. It's still up 1.5% of the day. S&P's up like 0.22. It's got to hold 570, dude. S&P's got to hold this 570 range. Let's see if we can keep it there. There's the red candle right there. 575 all the way down to 571.2. Airline still green. Tesla getting schmacked down 2%. Damn, 262 to 252. That sucks. That's not fun to see. In the grand scheme of things, it's up 30% in the past week or 18%, but still. SMCI below 400. Wow, there you go. It's halted again. It's halted again. Oh my God. Halted again, bro. Holy crap, dude. Wow, dude. Halted 2 times in a day on SMCI. I've not seen that in a while. SMCI. I mean, it didn't even get halted on the short report, on the 10K filing. It just kept falling. There was no halt. There was no stopping it. It just kept going down. This is like, maybe the SEC feels that it's being manipulated here, which is why they're halting it, given how much trouble it's been in over the past couple of weeks. And so it's going down. Look, Derek's trying to blame me. Admit, you told me to clear my Tesla position at 260, and I did. First of all, Derek, I did not say clear your Tesla position. I said take out your initial. Okay? I did not say clear it. We were on the phone the other day, and he was like, all right, I have XYZ in Tesla. I was like, dude, you invested when it was 200. It's at 260. Take out your initial. Let the rest ride. That does not mean get rid of everything. But Derek is extreme. He's one way or the other. He's like, I'm either all in or all out. Like, there's no chill with this guy. So he decides to take everything up. Look, it's not bad. It's not bad. I mean, 260 might be the short-term top. But I do think if you bought Tesla on August 5th, it's not bad to take out some of your initial, especially if you're in some options. This is, if you're in shares, whatever. But if you're in options, which Derek was in some options, then yeah, you might need to take out that initial because 1010 can be very volatile. But I mean, look, if you sold out at 260, that's not bad. Those are some good profits. Those are some very decent profits. I'm going to Disneyland. I feel like Derek could buy Disneyland. I feel like if you put a bid, he could actually buy Disneyland. What's happening to SMCI? The Wall Street Journal came out with a report that the DOJ is investigating them for something. We don't know exactly what, but they're launching a probe into Supermicro. That's the only reason why it's down, guys. That's it. We have no other news about why they're down, what the probe is about. Are they cooking the books? Yada, yada. They're down because the DOJ is the DOJ. Shout out to Danger. We got our boy Danger in the chat. You guys know Danger. He's an OG of the channel. The market is exciting as fuck. I mean, dude, the past 24 hours have been crazy, bro. I like literally as I'm stepping out of the door to go pick up my mom from the airport last night, the Sam Altman shit, he's a billionaire overnight, so that breaks, but I can't check my phone because I'm in the car for 2 hours, right? So I don't get to check my phone. I come home, I literally get on the couch for the next 3 hours. I am like this, bro. For the next 3 hours, this is what I'm doing. Like literally, this is what I'm doing for the next 3 hours. I'm tweeting and tweeting and tweeting. And then at one point, I'm just like passed out and I just knock out. I go to sleep, wake up. Before I can even take a piss or while I'm taking the piss, I realize Elon quote tweeted my tweet. And so I'm just, dude, literally my mom and my dad are like getting ready to leave for the day. My sister as well. There's like all this chaos. And I come out of the bathroom and they're like getting ready. And I'm like half dead right now. Like I'm in the it's like barely awake. And I'm trying to like, do I tell my mom that Elon reads it? Like, do I tell my parents this? This is like this is important. Do I tell them or do I just like, and I'm just like, I can't even explain it. Because if I told them, they would be like, why? And I'll be like, well, so there was this nonprofit that turned into a startup and then the founder, blah, blah, blah. And they would be like, what the fuck are you talking? They wouldn't even understand why Elon cares about what I had to say. So this whole morning has been, and then I call Adam and then I'm on the phone with Adam for 30 minutes trying to figure out what's going on with Bitcoin. And then as soon as the market opens, we get this massive run up because China injected billions of liquidity. Apparently, Jay Powell says he wants to make sure the markets are good. Janet Yellen says we're going to get a soft landing. The Saudis are like, hey, it's time to drill, baby, drill. And then SMCI gets halted within an hour of trading because maybe they're cooking the books based on some probe that the DOJ is putting into them. Just a crazy day, bro. Just an absolute crazy 24 hours. Absolute crazy 24 hours. Can you explain what is a local top not getting much on the internet? A local top is like for a short period of time, like July. So if you just look at the S&P 500, July was a local top, July 16th, I think. Pretty much everyone's portfolios probably had a local top around that range. So right here, July 15th, 16th, we were at 565. That was the top. That was a local top because we then proceeded to go all the way down to 508. So in this short local amount of time, right, period of time, you had a top. Then we retested it. We had a double top, came back down. People said it was a double top. Then we got a triple top. Usually there tends not to be a triple top, and now we went higher. So a local top means, hey, for example, on Tesla, you're saying, hey, Tesla 260 is a local top. We're probably going to go all the way back down to maybe 220, 210. And then we'll come back. And so I'll buy back in. So people who call a local top are not saying the market's going to crash. They're saying certain equities or maybe the market for a little bit will crash. They'll get back in and then they'll ride it back up. Yeah, as Derek says right here, it's basically a pullback. It's essentially a pullback. SMCI is back from being unhalted. It was down 15%. Now it's down 14%. Now it's down 13%. There's a little bit of a green candle right there. Who the hell's buying it right there, dude, bro? Like, who's actually stepping in and buying these shares right there? Now it's down 15. Now it's still going down. Dude, after you get a probe into you by the DOJ, that's not exciting to buy that dip. Like, who is excited to buy that? Down 15%. Did you see that green candle right there? Who actually thinks that's like fun to buy that? Holy crap. SMCI is time traveling back to 2023 prices. Goodness gracious. Goodness gracious. Algo's going to speculate on a dip. Well, that's fair. That's fair. Algo's probably might think it's a stupid dip and they're buying it. The people who think it's good value at the price they're buying them at, yeah, obviously I get that. Like if you think at $3.95 it's good value, sure. My question is, you don't even know anything about why the DOJ is investigating. This is not like when Robinhood got the Wells notice from the SEC and they fell from 18 to 16. Do you guys remember that in May? That a Wells notice is like stupid, bro. It's the SEC saying, hey, we might sue you. And then you look at the reason why. It's like, oh, because you have crypto. It's like, all right, you're full of shit. Like, shut up. Like, no, you're not. And that dip was bought up immediately, and that was easily bought up. A probe into SMCI from the DOJ, which is not a Wells notice, seems a bit more intense. And I don't know. It feels like you would want to be a little skeptical before you just get back into that. Wow. So there you go. SMCI, that's taking the show today. You would think it would be Bitcoin or JetBlue or oil or Rocket Lab. It's SMCI. Somehow SMCI. Palantir still hovering above 37. Celsius at 31. NVIDIA 123. Wow. NVIDIA barely green. 40 cents away from going red. Is Tesla still down? Tesla trying to recover at 253, but still not getting too much momentum. So 260 maybe was the local top for now. Maybe not. Granted, again, it's up so much over the past 2 weeks. It really doesn't matter that much. But if you just got in, then you might be annoyed if you bought in at 260. We'll see. Maybe towards the end of the day, it all recovers. Maybe literally this is just some volatility at 11 a.m. and by the end of the day, it goes further. Wow, SoFi is also getting hit. SoFi 770, still down 0.5%. I think for SoFi, it comes down to earnings, bro. I think for SoFi, this earnings, they've got to really show they've got something good and they got to make it stick. And if they make it stick after these earnings, then, we should see some more momentum. But it's going to come down to this one. HIMS at 1736, IWM giving up some of its gains as well, but it was up. Google at 164. Where is Hood? Hood is at 2230. Hood's tanking as well, down about 0.4. And then S&P still holding on by 30 bips, but it is down. It is indeed down. Okay, I'm not going to read Jordan's comment, but that is that's a funny one, dude. That is definitely a funny one. That is a funny one. Sonny says, bro, they beat every earnings. Okay, dude, I am really tired of the people that keep saying SoFi beats on every earnings and then they beating on every earnings is irrelevant in the context of I think sometimes SoFi bulls don't understand that stocks don't just move on numbers. If that's the case, there's no reason Palantir would be worth $37. Stocks move on narratives. Like you could argue 90% of a stock's move is its narrative more than its numbers. And SoFi does not have a narrative. So when I mean SoFi has to crush it on earnings, I don't mean they have to have some amazing numbers. I mean Noto has to get people to think this is going to be one of the biggest banks in the world one day. That's where my criticism of SoFi comes from. And everyone who thinks I'm being too harsh on SoFi, I really feel like you're so into the SoFi story, you're not being objective here. And being objective means realizing, hey, Noto does not make people feel like SoFi is going to take over JP Morgan or Bank of America. Vlad makes you feel Robin is going to take over the Schwabs and the Fidelities of the world. Karp makes you feel that Palantir is going to be bigger than Microsoft one day. And that feeling is what gets people excited. That feeling is so special. And then the numbers have to back it up. And this year, Robinhood and Palantir have backed up their numbers pretty nicely. SoFi has some really good numbers, but they've not really backed up any thesis because I don't think there is a thesis other than like they're a bank. The tech side of the business doesn't have a thesis yet. Now, you can say no one gets the thesis. If that's the case, fine. No one gets it. And you're the smartest person in the world that gets it and no one else gets it. Maybe that's why. But I think there's been enough due diligence on the company for people to understand what's going on. And now it's about Noto actually delivering the goods here. That's the only difference, bro. And I don't mean to be bearish on SoFi. Like, dude, I have SoFi. It's not about being bearish. But it's also about, like, this is a stock that's been brain dead for fucking 3 years. I mean, Rocket Lab right there, that'll show you a company that's breaking out from based on a narrative. Does Rocket Lab deserve to be worth $5 billion right now? You could make a definitive argument that no, there's no way. Price to sales of 13, probably not. But there's a really interesting narrative around Rocket Lab. And could I see that thing going to 10, 12 in the short term? Yeah, just based on the fact that people are excited about space. I've yet to hear what the narrative is on SoFi from anyone. Like literally from anyone. No one has told me what it is. Do you have a 3-year or 3-month horizon? Dude, forget timeline. I just want to know what the narrative is on SoFi. That's it. And again, this is not bearish. This is just this is a cautious bull asking what gets this stock to change in a different level. You mean they need to do good on guidance? Sure, they need to have good guidance, but with that guidance comes some level of qualitative analysis the street can. Dude, all these analyst reports, if you guys read equity reports, they're all based on a qualitative story. Bank of America's Robinhood report to 32, it's a thesis on organic growth. Bank of America's $50 price target upgrade on Palantir, it's a thesis on the ontology. It, like, the numbers at the end, honestly, the numbers are sometimes kind of stupid. They're like, hey, if you look at 11x 2026 earnings and you put this operating margin, boom, that's how we get $50. It's like, dude, no one cares about how you figure that out. Like, that's really not that interesting. But tell me a story that gets me excited, and then we'll think about the numbers. And I don't see where that story is currently for SoFi. That's the only problem. That's the only problem. Are you still invested in Purple Biotech? No. I took my loss on that at like $1.11. It was $11,000 loss. For those that don't know Purple Biotech, that was my first biotech company investment in like 2019. One of those companies I thought was going to solve cancer. I still do think, by the way, NT219. See, dude, I went deep on this company. I can tell you all the patents they have, all the shit. NT219, look it up. It's one of the most interesting drugs in the world, and they've had a lot of success with it. But this is where you realize a cool drug does not make a company successful, right? Like, they have to actually make the company work. So I think they've done like 5 reverse splits at this point. Like, I got out of it, took like a 70% loss. It's good. It was good on my taxes 2 years ago, but I think it was 2023. It was last year I sold at the beginning of the year. It is what it is. Sometimes that stuff happens. But again, same thing with Purple Biotech, right? Like, where is the overarching narrative that's going to take it to the next level? And I think that's the same thing with SoFi. Like, we need to know, where does the street think this company is going to go? Are they going to be the biggest bank in the world? I don't think so. Are they going to take away Bank of America's market share? I don't think so. Are they going to compete with people to have their brokerage apps on their phone? Well, we know what company's actually doing that. It's not SoFi. So, you can't even sell options on SoFi. It's one of those things where we need a little bit more. We need more juice on this. It's down 99%. Yeah, dude, that's what I'm saying. I've been through some lessons in the market, dude. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm definitely not perfect, but you go through some lessons where you're like, oh, yeah, maybe I don't invest in a biotech that like says they're going to cure cancer and doesn't even have, the right structure in their leadership to get the job done. I think they went through like 5 CEO changes. And like, it's just all this shit, dude. You realize how many companies on the public stock market are just full of shit. And that's why, Palantir you can say is overvalued, but one thing you can say is it's not full of shit. That's definitely one thing you can say. And so sometimes maybe you buy a little bit more of an overvalued company just based on the idea that most of the capital is going to go to them. Algos don't trade on narrative, though. Yeah, I mean, to an extent. If you get a bad press release, algos will take that and they'll create a narrative. Like, if Palantir got $1 billion government deal right now, yeah, that helps the numbers. Let's say it's a 10-year deal, 100 million top line revenue, but that $1 billion number from like the army or whatever, that narrative is going to be synthesized now through the natural language processing algorithms that these quants use, and they'll be able to come up with a either bull case or bear case based on that. So it's not always narrative, but I think some part of it ends up being a narrative. Where's Bitcoin? Are we still doing okay on Bitcoin? 64.6. 64.6 on Bitcoin. Adam says 30% growth. Tell us what Galileo will do. I think that's a great narrative. I think you tell us Galileo is going to make you the payments B2B infrastructure for the rest of the world, deliver top line 30%. That's a phenomenal narrative. That's a fintech narrative. It's not just that much on banking. And you get to be valued at more than price to tangible book, which is what I think SoFi is getting valued at right now. But I've just been unimpressed with the company's ability to explain their narratives. And again, I love Noto. Noto's such a smart guy. I have so much respect for him. But on the earnings and on these interviews, he like doesn't, either he's just too relaxed of a guy and he doesn't want to get animated or whatever. And that's fine, because Vlad's not animated either, but Vlad's putting up crazy numbers. And so you can be less animated when when Karp was not putting up numbers, when Karp was showing 12% growth, he was banging on the table and he was animated. And even if the stock didn't reflect, you could tell the guy gave a fuck. Like, you could tell the guy, because he was a founder. And when it's your baby and it's like not going well, like, you really feel emotions there. Everyone's been through that to some extent in regards to a project they've started or, something they're dealing with. When it's yours, you feel deeply and you express that. Noto's not a founder of SoFi. And I don't think that's a knock against him, but that is one thing I think about sometimes, of like, how much does he really, really, really care about this thing? And what does it mean for top line growth? because I just don't see his emotion. But then again, maybe he's not an emotional guy. Maybe he doesn't talk. The first time he said, hey, I want Trump to win, I was so happy, not because I care about Trump or Harris. I was just like, oh, finally, he said something that lets us know he gives a shit about like something other than personal loans, right? Like he cares about something and that affects personal loans, but we got some emotion out of him. And I think we need more of that at the end of the day. SMCI, is this still down? Is SMCI still down? It's recovering a little bit, down 11%, still recovering a bit. He does buy the dip. That's true. That's a good point. He does buy the dip. So he speaks with his money. He does buy the dip, which means it's obvious that he's bullish. It's just a question of now painting that narrative for everyone else to agree with that as well. NYC mayor charged with bribery, wire fraud, and taking donations from foreign nationals. Well, that's quite a headline. That's Eric Adams, right? He's the NYC mayor, Eric Adams. Dude, what is going on in our world? What is going on? I'm not going to get into the whole Diddy stuff, but like, it feels like the world is being run by a couple people and everything's being exposed. And it's just insane. like it's literally just insane. It is things are kind of crazy. Let's get an update on markets and then we'll keep going from there. Here we go.
Much. I am here just a couple blocks away from you at the NYSE with Treasury Secretary.
Felt pretty much down the center of the fairway. Nothing really surprising. That I didn't really hear anything surprising.
No, I think that's probably largely the case to your point. And I think all of us sort of pause on China, given the continued level of tension between the two companies. We started this hour with Sarah talking about initial jobless claims. So let me come to you on that because they're the lowest they've been, in the last 4 months, right? I mean, is the Fed overly concerned about employment at this point, given at least it would seem to be pretty strong, not to mention what Michelle Bowman, who dissented in the last meeting, has to say about it as well?
No, the UI claims, we got to step back, abstract from the seasonal adjustment issues. They were a bit, you may recall, if you go back a couple months ago, maybe even a month ago, they felt on the high side of what everyone was comfortable with, and now they're kind of on the low side. This just goes to the so-called residual seasonality created by the pandemic. So if you cut through that, it feels like we're a rock solid, 225, 230, that's very consistent with an economy, a job market that's going to continue to create jobs. But the concern is that businesses have pulled back on their hiring, no doubt about that. They've cut back on hours that people are working. They've cut back on temp jobs. And all of those things suggest that, businesses have turned more cautious here. And, I always worry about layoffs. I mean, it's the argument is that businesses aren't going to lay off because they've been grappling with labor shortages for such a long time. They don't want to get wrong-footed like they did during the pandemic, so they're going to be very reluctant to lay off. And I think that's a reasonable argument. But, it's hard to prove, hard to show. And, speaking to you now as kind of a business person who hires a lot of people, employs a lot of people, I know that when one company in each industry decides to start laying off, it sets off layoffs across the board. So it feels like a very tenuous kind of situation we're in. It's great, it's good. Economy still remains resilient. We're still creating jobs, but it feels like a resilient, kind of a tenuous resilience. If that makes any sense.
Okay, so we got David Tepper, who was on CNBC today. Let's get his thoughts. For those that don't know David Tepper, really big hedge fund, billionaire investor, well known amongst the hedge fund community. Let's get his thoughts. The headline here is that he's not buying NVIDIA. So let's get his thoughts. And while this is playing, I will go liquidate my bladder. I'll be right back, and then we'll keep going.
You sold some NVIDIA?
Well, we sold a lot of our
the
NVIDIA.
Stuff before, yeah.
But, listen, the stock we thought was, too high at the time and would come down. Unfortunately, we didn't buy it when it came back down.
Right.
But, so it's okay. It's really those stocks like NVIDIA is a question. Do you have enough power, okay, for the growth? Do you have the next generation models that can take their chip? So it looks great in 24. It looks great in 25. I have no idea in 26 and 27. I am no idea. Okay, I mean, if I was good, I don't believe my analysts. I don't believe any analysts. I don't trust myself. You know what I'm saying? I just don't know how you know. There's too much. And you know, you have these multiples out there and how it can go, and the variation of where that earnings can be on the out years is too much. So it's not my preferred vehicle versus other things that I have more confidence in how I can, how we can do in my shop, you know, analysis on the earnings.
But you thought it was important to mention that you'll be playing the energy component of trying to supply all this new technology.
We're trying to understand it better.
But trying to understand it better.
Yeah, here's the thing.
Would it be?
I'll tell you.
Would you avoid green? Would you embrace green? Would you avoid fossil fuels? Would you embrace fossil fuels, natural gas? Which way would you do it?
I never think I'm that smart, so I just like to use common sense.
I made you out to be really smart.
Okay, you can try, but I'm not going to accept it. But I do have a heck of a lot of common sense, and this is what I know. I talked to some governors, you know, around the country, both sides of the aisle. I'm friendly with everybody, as you know.
Yeah.
They're not going to let their nuclear power come offline. It's not going to happen. It's a joke. Some of these projections on these things are crazy. It has to be, if you're going to meet these power needs of what they need for AI, you're going to have to use natural gas. You're going to have to use natural gas. It's just.
And that comes from drilling.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of it. And, you know, so you have to use, you know, you're going to have to use it. You cannot take if you take a current nuclear plant and you think you're going to get these things, it will never get by these individual, you know, PUCs. It won't. It can't. It's going to hurt the consumer too much. You can't hurt the consumer that much. It's nuts. So I hear these guys talk about, well, if we did this, if I was 7'2", I would have been in the NBA one day. I'm not 7'2". Okay, if you want to say something that can't possibly happen,
you still wouldn't be in the NBA.
I would still. I don't have the skills. It's a true story, but
you could be 8'2".
So that's an interest when they say. So I'm trying to understand what really makes sense, what doesn't make sense,
right.
And you know, we're trying to figure that out right now. So it's fascinating to me. It's fascinating when you look at these tech stocks. It's fascinating in a video, or you look at some of these things. Can you do for different reasons? There's different things as you go out years. Different things that have to happen to make the growth projections happen. I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm just not smart enough to know if they will. I know the probabilities that they will or not, but I can't. No, I mean, it's what it is. Okay, so I recognize those things, and people are making assumptions they're going to happen 100%. Well, you know, the United States is a great country, and we innovate like heck, and, you know, things do happen this way, and usually you have flies.
We do have a fly. We have a
It's
fly.
one particular one, and if I get him, I'm telling you, I'm not even going to kill him. I'm not going to kill him right away. I'm not going to kill him right away.
Dare I ask you how the election plays into all this?
You know, so with the election, I am a big proponent of split government. And right now, as you're more than aware of, it looks like the Senate is Republican and the House is Democratic, and I'm loving life. And I don't care. I'm talking purely from this show.
Bro, that's wild. This is a billionaire. This is like when you hear stories about billionaires like legit are just controlling politicians like puppets, that's him basically saying that right now. He doesn't give a shit who's the president. He just cares that stocks go up. And if there's gridlock, meaning Democrats and Republicans together that can't work together, then that's good for him. Like, that's it. That's all. They care about money. That's it. They don't care about anything else. It's about money.
Okay, I don't care.
And what would you do if it was a sweep?
If it's a sweep on either side?
Democrat sweep.
So I'll just, and I don't want to talk about it that much politics, but I'll just say in general, you have a populist on one side and a progressive populist on the other. And if I listen to what happy day I hear more giveaways and more of that. So do I want all Democrats? No. Do I want all Republicans? No. I don't want more. If again, from a pure economics, there's other considerations, which is just not the show to talk about. But from this market perspective, an economic perspective, what's good for the economy, I want a split government, and I don't want all Democrats, and I don't want all Republicans.
And you think at the moment,
if I'm thinking about the markets,
no, and you think at the moment it's not impacting the markets either way because you think that the expectation is that it's going to be split.
Well, not only the expectations there, people bet on it. The betting markets are that way, that it's split, and as long as it's split. And this may be a problem because the market thinks it's going to be split right now. So if it gets surprised, that could be a problem for the markets. But as long as it's a split, the market's going to be fine. They will not care because they're not going to let them do the things they talk about.
So, David, are you
Okay.
afraid to play AI directly? You're doing the sort of downstream ways of doing it. I mean, is it too hard to figure out? There's
No.
NVIDIA, but
No, listen, you have
what besides NVIDIA and energy could?
well, we have the regular stocks like a Meta has been a big beneficiary of AI.
Right. Llama.
All these, I mean, and they just in how they do models, how they monetize their business, and other
Is that
companies
a
like
big
Amazon.
trend for you, or is there something else?
It's a question how much is in the stocks and how much what the next generation is, how much more, because they've gotten pretty good returns, I think, that more than people appreciate in one of these numbers, and so they could have near-term all these stocks could have near-term surprises. So the question is, what is it as it goes further out?
When you say surprises on the upside or downside?
Well, surprises on the upside if they can change the models, and some of the
I see
base
what you're
earnings are good enough to give support for those stocks, versus. We talked about, and I kind of like NVIDIA, the price. Okay, so don't get me wrong. I could just love it. Okay. But you have to believe more in that. Versus
Are you not a believer that long term for AI to actually work and to be a meaningful contributor to the economy,
Yes.
that NVIDIA's margins ultimately have to come down? Meaning, as long as they have it was like 70% margin, 80% margins on some of these chips, it's amazing, and God bless them for it. But at some point, to make this whole thing economical, I imagine those margins are going to have to come down.
Not till there's
It depends how much they make, right? But look, it's another concern potentially.
Do you have any Lilly, Novo? You have any healthcare? You got any biotech?
Are you asking me if I
just
take
trying to get as
Return or
much as I
Ozempic
can? Nope,
like you,
I'm
Joe?
just
I
saying.
don't know
You
what
watch
you're
Lilly? Lilly has been a growth stock.
No, I
for the
don't.
80s.
I don't have.
So no healthcare.
Can I go back to China again? Just
Which
I'm
I
still trying to
think
get my
is
head around.
the biggest thing that people really have to go and understand it, because it has implications all over in bonds, currencies, and stocks. So we didn't talk about the currencies and bond side.
Okay, one more 2-minute clip of him talking about China. So he doesn't like NVIDIA right now, but he likes China.
Which I think is the biggest thing that people really have to go and understand it, because it has implications all over in bonds, currencies, and stocks. So we didn't talk about the currencies and bond side.
But just with the stocks themselves, I'm just thinking of your positions. Alibaba was a huge position. You really loaded up in the first quarter. You cut back, I think, in the second quarter. What are you doing now? Did the China moves over the last few days, but just because you were saying in the past you wouldn't go more than 10 or 12%, or the most recent things we've seen are that you have about 12% of Alibaba. Does that mean you put those aside and you would own even more than that?
As I said, the value at risk model is what I sleep at night.
Dude, look at his smile. I feel like he's so happy. He kind of knew this pump was coming for China.
I had a fine. I went over that limit on the Fed announcement. Okay, in the last week, I went more when they said a day or two ago on their Fed, and last night I did more.
Just Alibaba? Or are you talking
Everything.
JD, Baidu, PDB, the two Chinese ETFs, everything China?
ETF, how we do futures, right? Everything. Listen, a long time ago in 2010, I think I said everything.
And you would say
I remember when you said everything.
And you know what's good?
You were right.
Everything. Okay. So if they, this is incredible stuff for that place. Okay. So it's everything. Now I would love to see a pullback. Okay. Because I will then, my newfound limit, which might have been twice my old found limit.
25%?
You said 10 to 12. It's double.
20 to 24%. So
I'm going to say what it is.
Is the limit
would
25?
be I will have another newfound limit. Okay, in a pullback. Okay, if I see these absolutely be implemented, because again, you can look at these names and you're talking about single-digit PE multiples with double-digit growth.
But you think there's
and wait a second.
Yeah.
This is the other thing. You have some of these stocks with 50% cash. Some of these things you just put up on the board, 50% cash, 20% cash, 30% cash. And that cash, depending how the Chinese currency goes, maybe if the Chinese currency is really strong, they'll want them to buy back.
Okay, so David, let me ask you.
They're asking, did you see this thing? buying back stock, when companies buy back their stock.
Right. But you're a hedge fund. How do
The Chinese government did say that this morning, that they really want companies to buy back their stock.
you hedge your risk? What's the counter bet that you put on that, just in case?
You know what? I'm sitting here in a suit. My counter bet is that I don't care.
Interesting. So Tepper's loading up on China. I mean, that was one of the Bitcoin back to 65. That was one of the largest endorsements I've seen of China in a very long time by someone who is prominent. SMCI still down 30%, not 30, 13%. Look at Palantir at 37.30. Palantir holding up nicely. And he's not hedged against the downside risks of China, which means he thinks we've hit such a bottom on China and that the money printer is going to go so berserk probably over the next 5 years. I mean, they're not opening the money printer for tomorrow. Alibaba at 103 up 8%. Alibaba does have like 80 billion in cash or something. So that's your endorsement from Tepper. Everything. I didn't know he had this 2010 quote about everything. Did you guys know about that quote? Can we find the video on that? David Tepper 2010. Is that what he said in 2010? 2010 everything. Okay, I found a video. Let's see. Let's see what he said in 2010. Here we go.
Either the economy is going to get better by itself in the next 3 months, and what assets are going to do well. You can guess the assets are going to do well. Stocks are going to do well. Bonds won't do so well. Gold won't do as well. Or the economy is not going to pick up in the next 3 months, and the Fed's going to come in with QE, right? Then what's going to do well? Everything in the near term. Everything. The economy, I'm not sure which way it is right now. I think it's getting better. I'm not absolutely sure. Okay. And if it's not getting better, the market can go down a little bit. What does that mean? It can go down to 1,100? Sure, it can. Can it go down to 1,000? No, I don't believe that. I mean, then it can. I'll tell you what, we'll be 100% equities. Up to the point the Fed comes in with money, the stock market can go down a little bit, but not that much because I got a put. You got to love a put, especially when the government's issuing it. So I can't go down that much. It doesn't mean I go up to that point, but after that, I'm going up. Okay.
Yeah, everything 2010. I mean, look, that was the right call. And if you said everything in 2008, that was the bad call. Or 2007. If you said everything after 2008, which I assume not that many people were doing because they were still afraid of 2008, basically what happened in 2023, right? 2022, 2021 kind of scared people. So 2023, people got more conservative. You had the Dan Ives, Tom Lees of the world saying, nope, this is good. So Tepper is kind of making that same endorsement, but this time not just for U.S. equities, for China. Bitcoin right here, 65,100. I guess we'll see if he ends up being right again, like he was in 2010 for China. Interesting, dude. I have not seen someone on mainstream media really endorse China the way I just saw him right now. It's been a long time since I saw that. It's been a very long time since I've seen China get that type of endorsement. I'm still not buying China. I don't care. Look, he was convincing, but he wasn't convincing enough for me to trust China. I'm not doing it, dude. He's probably right. We all know Alibaba's undervalued. I just don't trust it. And I think there's a lot of other American opportunities that can do well. SoFi going green right here, 774, 0.11%. Again, I want to reiterate on SoFi, I am not a bear. Even if you think I am not a bear on SoFi. I really like the company. I really like the fundamentals. I love the CEO. I just think it's a communication argument. I literally think they need to hire someone to help them with their messaging to investors. That's literally what I think needs to be done, and things could change overnight. That's it. So I think if that happens, then we should see momentum. And also the other thesis on SoFi is rate cuts should be bullish again. So another 50 bips, you're talking about 100 bips of cuts. I just don't know how that doesn't help SoFi, along with them having a good quarter. So we'll see what happens there with SoFi. But it is going a little bit green right now. IWM at 219, QQQ at 486, AMD 165. The Qs are still up a little bit, even though they were up almost 2%. Now they're up 0.25%. That's why it's hard for the Qs to maintain a 2-3% day. But they're still green, which is nice. S&P still holding 570, 571, which is nice as well. And now we just need to continue to go higher. Or hopefully we can keep that going higher. Someone has to clip Noto Stanford speech. That was a great speech for those who haven't watched that speech. Phenomenal. If you type in Anthony Noto Stanford, I mean, dude, the guy's a rock star. The guy's an absolute rock star. I just think the narrative around what SoFi is trying to do is not as properly communicated. And look, maybe they shut everybody up when they show real growth in this quarter, and like, you know, everyone shut, like, maybe that's also a number. Sometimes maybe shut everything up, but the numbers have to be really good to shut everybody up. If the numbers are okay, hopefully they talk in the right way and they describe it, and then it keeps going forward. Rivian right here, 1115. Rivian just went green. It was at 1097. NASDAQ 18,000. HubSpot 534. How is HubSpot doing this year? HubSpot is one of those stocks I think you could argue could get commoditized by something like an AI. Not in the short term. HubSpot is down 2.5% year to date. Wow. I think Google was going to buy HubSpot a while ago, but that one fell through. It's a smaller company, 27 billion. I feel like they're an acquisition target. But I guess we'll see if that one continues going forward further. They're not that interesting of a company. They do like content marketing internally and externally for enterprises. They've never been that interesting to me, though. Is HubSpot profitable? Rocket Lab still 873. HubSpot is not profitable. Okay, that's probably another reason why the street doesn't love them. Airlines still maintaining their momentum. JetBlue up 9%, Delta up 5%, United up 6%, Gold up a little bit, and then Tesla was getting hit by 2%. Now Tesla is down only 1%. Where's Bitcoin? Is Bitcoin still mooning? Wow, holy crap. We got new dailies on the Bitcoin. We got a new intraday high on Bitcoin. Look at that. There you go. There you go. All right. I don't know where that came from. But there it is. It either has to be Gensler or J-Powell today. It has to be one of those things. But something happened to help Biddy. I mean, the chart looks nice too, dude. Chart doesn't look horrible here for Bitcoin. 65.45. Where's Palantir? Dude, Palantir holding 3730 is not bad either. You would think Palantir takes a little bit of a breather today. Nope. It's green. So one thing I didn't talk about is I feel like the Openai thing is bullish for Palantir for a couple reasons. Number one, the safe and ethical deployment of AI. If Sam Altman's not doing it, you might argue that other enterprise software companies like Palantir take that leadership there, right? So that's one argument. Number two, if OpenAI is really going to be worth 150 billion, dude, like, I don't think the market's going to let Palantir only be worth 80 billion. I think I know the valuation stretched right now, but if OpenAI is 150, we get a bull run, I think the market's going to let Palantir run. And either it's a setup and we're going to be humbled on Q3 earnings, or it's just the new world we live in and Palantir is going to have to grow into it. But I don't know. I feel like OpenAI being worth that much, it means something on the public markets for Palantir. Now, all those execs leaving, the other argument is, hey, one of these execs who left, by the way, worked at Palantir for a decade, and then he went to OpenAI, then he left. Imagine he comes back to Palantir. Imagine Mira, the CTO, comes to Palantir. Like, if Palantir takes some of that momentum, or some of that leadership, that's going to be, not the worst thing for them either. Michael Saylor is smiling. Dude, Michael Saylor is absolutely smiling right now. Michael Saylor's having a good day. Michael Saylor is having a great day. Eric says, SoFi couldn't even do checking accounts in-house. That's when I lost faith. Is worse than just the bank because banks can do checking accounts. Look, I hear you. I hear you. I mean, I think it's fair. I think it's very fair criticism. Just going to be a question now if they can grow and kind of change the overarching narrative. But I feel you. It's real. A lot of people. I mean, Steve, for goodness, let's see if Steve will pick up the phone. Steve doesn't even like talking about SoFi after they announced their American Express partnership. I just want to see Steve talk about Alibaba. Let's see if we can get him to pick up. Let's see.
Hello.
Steven Fiorillo.
Yes, that's my name.
I am live with 1,400 people on the market open. And I was just telling...
You do realize the market's been open for 2 hours and 8 minutes, right?
Okay, so we're 2 hours and 8 minutes into the market open. And I told everyone here about a text I got a couple of days ago from someone And that text was 2 words. Baba bitch. And I don't know. Do you know anyone who has enough maturity or immaturity to message that to me? I'm just wondering.
Well, you said the text wrong.
What was the text?
That's one.
Okay.
The second word was plural.
Okay.
So if you're gonna read a text, read it correctly.
Okay. Do you know who would happen to have sent that text?
I mean, I don't know who could have sent that. Who's been saying Bob was undervalued when everybody else was laughing? I don't know.
All right. So we got to get your perspective here, Steve.
I have limited amount of time.
Okay, 5 minutes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Tell me about Baba. What do you think is going on with Baba in China? Is this fake? What's going on?
I don't think it's fake. I think Bob is. Look, I've said the same thing for years. If you believe the numbers are true and you believe the numbers are correct, and you don't believe they're cooking the books, this is one of the most undervalued tech companies I've ever seen. If you believe that there's something fishy going on, then it's not a good investment. I mean, I'm invested in it. I bought more. I got my average price down to around 100 from, I think I first purchased shares like 220. And I think this is, when you look at the cash on hand, you look at where the Chinese economy is going, you look at their revenue and free cash flow, it's undervalued.
China is stimulating the economy at an aggressive rate. Is this worrisome to you, or you think this is the only reason why Baba's up? So how do you make sense of this?
Why would that be worrisome? They're injecting money into the economy. They're trying to compete with the U.S. They're trying to compete with everybody else. That's only bullish for Baba. And you got to remember, Baba is the biggest cloud play out there. So if you believe that China is going to follow in the U.S.'s footsteps, there is no AWS or Microsoft Azure out there. Baba's cloud is the cloud infrastructure out there. So you got to think that that division alone should help drive this forward. But once again, when I was saying that this was undervalued, they had almost as much cash on hand and cash in long-term investments as the market cap of the company.
So China stimulating is good, but China also basically put Jack Ma in a room for 3 months and no one knew where he was.
What does that have to do with me?
I mean, dude, is there any concern that China kind of cracks down on executives? And
what does that have to do with me?
I mean, if they do that again to the CEO of Alibaba, that's not good, I would imagine.
I mean, I care about the share price. I have nothing to do with what their practices are over there. I don't live over there. I'm looking at this from a pure investment standpoint. They provide a service that's needed through cloud. They provide a service.
No, but I'm giving you an investment pushback, like them doing something that could be bad for the overall economy in terms of like the CCP just being the CCP. Are you not worried about that now?
That's a huge risk factor that if you're going to invest in any Chinese company, you got to be willing to stomach.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it is what it is. That's never going to change now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So it is what it is.
Okay.
Like, it's a risk factor for every company.
All right. That's fair. I just wanted your thoughts on Baba. That's it. So you see,
I mean,
you like it.
I like the numbers.
I like the numbers too.
The numbers have made sense for a while.
Yeah, it's always just been the China risk. That's it.
It's always been the China risk, and it's always been. And you notice how people are not talking about what happens if it gets delisted. That was the big rhetoric for years. And I always said, call your broker, ask them. I call my broker. I know exactly what happens to my shares if they're ADRs. If it gets delisted, I'm okay with that risk factor because I understand what's going to happen to the shares and what shares I'm going to get. But to me, that wasn't a risk. That was an overblown narrative of people not doing their own research.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know. If you believe the numbers are true, then it's hard to deny that is an interesting investment, even going up from 78 to 100. It's still very undervalued if the numbers are right.
All right. I got Steve's Twitter in the chat. I'll call you tomorrow, Steven. We can talk on the market close tomorrow. But
yeah, so real quick, the Palantir is up again. I saw your interview with Chris, and
Chris Camillo. Yeah.
I think it's going to go higher. I mean,
I think so too. I think if OpenAI is worth 150 billion, I mean, market's going to be like, you know what? Fuck it. Palantir is worth more than 80.
Oh God,
it's crazy. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane.
A lot of things are crazy right now.
Well, the Fed's printing, China's printing. This OpenAI debacle is happening in general. I mean, investors are willing to put in at 150 billion valuation. I would imagine, unless Palantir, doesn't horribly miss their numbers on Q3, then it can get fun for them. Oh, by the way, Peter Thiel sold 7 million shares, 11 million shares in the past 2 days. I don't know if you know that.
Everything's up. PayPal's up.
Everything's up. Yeah.
Everything's up.
And Palantir, but look at that, 37.40. I mean, Alex Karp and Peter Thiel sold 20 million shares.
How did you feel about your buddy Chris over there saying that, he's a little skeptical about FSD?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, that's been your sentiment for a long time. For those that don't know what he's talking about, Chris Camillo on the podcast said he doesn't give a shit about FSD. He only cares about his bots. Oh, you must have been loving the bots discussion.
So I quit drinking coffee. I was going through withdrawal yesterday, still kind of going through withdrawal. So I was listening to that podcast with the lights out and my eyes closed because of my massive migraine from getting off of caffeine. And I was so happy to hear somebody else say exactly what I've been saying. It was nice.
So you're saying you fell asleep to my voice is what you're saying?
I didn't fall asleep. I was trying to get rid of a migraine.
That's even better. That's good. That's a good use case for my voice. I like that. Yeah, no.
It's called I was listening to a podcast because the bright light from the TV was bothering me.
You can potato. I hear Amit helps me deal with my migraines. That's all. That's good enough for me. No, I think the FSD thing is fair, and bots is his big thesis. And you've been saying you're only long Tesla for bots, and I think that's fair.
Yeah, let's see. Tesla's running it back at 255. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Why is Tesla up?
Because China printed money. I mean, and the 1010 invites came out, so people are excited about that. But
1010 invites.
Tesla's recovering a little bit. It fell to 251, now back at 255. Yeah, you're right. Okay, here. So last question for you. Do you think Tesla 1010 is sell the news, or you think it goes higher?
I kind of need it to be sell the news, to be honest with you, for my options. But
what do you think happens?
I don't know. It all depends. If they come out, and I told you before, I'm not changing my stance. If they come out with a live demo of this working great, and then saying they've already talked to regulators, they have a clear path forward in major metropolitan cities, and give some type of time frame, it could be massive. If it's just a car driving around doing good, but no talk of when regulation will happen in major metropolitan areas, I don't care if you're allowed to use FSD in a town with 1,000 people. That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You need to be able to use it in cities that have millions of people for this to be real.
So you think you think it could be a sell the news?
People drive to work. People drive to major metropolitan areas. In order for them to buy a Tesla for a car, they're going to want to use that everywhere. So if you're not allowed to use it in the jurisdictions people live in, or most of the people live in, as you look at a map of the United States, most of the populated areas are very segmented. So this really needs regulation for this to fly. But if they come out with something, this could go past 300 if they come out with good news on regulation.
Okay, let's go deeper into it tomorrow, because I have a lot of questions. Jason Calacanis had a great tweet about Uber and Tesla. I'll send you that. I think that's a good conversation as well. So we'll go deeper tomorrow.
Sure.
But last thing for you, did you see the Meta event at all?
I was going to ask you if you saw. I saw something about the Meta glasses on some podcast when the guy interviewed Zuckerberg, and Apple may not get to where Meta is going, but my thesis is correct, and I'm in Meta big, so I'm happy.
Yeah, your glasses thesis might be correct. It just might be Meta that wins
It
instead
just
of
may
Apple.
be Meta, not Apple.
Yeah. That's a
And Meta needs, look, Zuck is sick of paying Apple and Google. He wants to own the infrastructure so he can make more money. And that's what he's doing with this, is he's owning the infrastructure.
I agree.
So that's a big conversation for tomorrow.
All right.
All right. I got to get to a 12 o'clock meeting, so I got to try and prepare for the next one.
So how are you getting through the day without the coffee? What are you doing?
It's not good. I mean, yesterday I felt like horrible. Today I'm okay. I just feel a little not all there, not as sharp as I normally am. But everything I read takes anywhere from 2 to 9 days to kick the addiction. So,
I mean, just look at your Baba stock. That's enough energy, right?
dude, I'm trying to get off the coffee. What can I say? Drink too much of it. So it's all or nothing.
You got to drink more water. That's what the chat's saying. You got to drink more water.
Oh, I'm drinking a ton of water.
Okay, good.
Ton of water.
All right.
I'll talk to you later.
I'll talk to you later. Bye.
All right, bye.
All right, folks. I think that's it for me today as well. We'll be back on the market close at 3:45. What a day, dude. What a day. SMCI is investigated, down 14%. OpenAI is now a profitable company. 3 major executives, including the CTO, leaves. Palantir reverses to 37.40. Tesla goes up and down, but now looks like it's basically flat on the day. Bitcoin breaks 65. The Saudis start drilling oil. China prints $142 billion of more money for their banks. The airlines go to the moon based on this oil stuff. And then you got Gary Gensler kind of saying something that makes Bitcoin excited, and Jerome Powell saying something that makes the market excited. And then you had Micron earnings as well yesterday that just were carried on into this morning. Just so many different things happening. Micron right here up 13% on the day as well. All right, cool. That's it for me. We'll be back at 3:45. We do have Costco earnings after the bell, so that'll be an important one. So Costco, we'll talk about that. That's going to be important for the consumer, health of the economy, where things are going. We'll see that. And we'll see how some of these storylines play out through the rest of the day and keep going from there. All right. Thank you, everybody. Hope you had a good one. I'll be back in a few hours, get some lunch, and we'll see you guys in a bit. Thank you, everyone. See you later.